It's time for MacBreak Weekly. We got a great show. Andy, Alex, and Rene are all here. We're going to talk about, of course, the 60 Minutes segment on Apple. We'll dissect it. We'll zapruder it. We'll figure out everything that it means and doesn't mean. Plus, we'll end a lot of rumors from other sources and maybe start some new ones. Our last MacBreak Weekly of 2015 coming up next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 486, recorded Tuesday, December 22nd, 2015. Andy's Dongle Bag. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by FreshBooks, the super simple cloud accounting software that's giving thousands of freelancers and small businesses the tools to save time billing and get paid faster. Try it free at freshbooks.com/MacBreak. And by Texture, the mobile app that lets you access the world's most popular magazines anytime, anywhere, using your phone or tablet. For your free 30-day trial, visit texture.com/MacBreak. And by lynda.com, the online learning platform with over 3,000 on-demand video courses to help you strengthen your business, technology, and creative skills. For a free 10-day trial, visit lynda.com/MacBreak. That's LYNDA.com/MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the last show of the year for December 22nd. Hello, everybody. Alex, Lindsay in studio.
Hello.
Nice to see you once again.
Yes.
Mr. Rene Ritchie from Christmassy Montreal.
Leo, it's going to be 16 degrees on Thursday.
I saw that.
It's ridiculous.
16 Celsius, which is like
30s, 40, I don't know what it is.
No, that's like in the 50s or something. That's ridiculous.
We're melting. All of Canada's melting. Send help.
I was all worried because and Andy Ihnatko is also here from the Chicago Sun-Times. You know, we're on Saturday, we're going to New Jersey to get on a boat. And it's warmer there. It's 57 degrees in New Jersey right now.
For the moment, but what are you doing getting on a boat in the middle of the winter?
No, I think it's going to be warmer there than Orlando.
Yep.
It's a weird heat snap. You're also a little warm, aren't you, Andy?
Yep, 54 degrees. I went for my morning constitutional, leaving the house in just like one layer of like a thin T-shirt, and I came back and I was just like wet with sweat. It wasn't. It's like as I'm like showering and stuff, I'm thinking, well, I'm glad that I could have comfortable constitutionals, but I can't help but be concerned that it's in the mid-50s 3 days before Christmas.
Well,
As I say, I feel as though not our children, but our children's children are, again, going to have an interesting reality that will
deny this, lawmakers.
Well, I would say buy a house away from the coast is what I would say right now.
And get some nice beachfront property in a few generations.
If you
start stockpiling gasoline, gauze bandages.
You tie it. Well, I'm working to get off the grid. We've got solar now.
Completely? Are you self-sufficient with
Not
solar?
yet, because we're waiting for the Elon Musk super battery, but I'm on the waiting list. Then we'd be off the grid, and then not 100%. We'd be off the grid only if the grid
like
dies.
the new Apple headquarters.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about that. 60 Minutes. I didn't see it.
Oh, it was good.
I'm so mad because I was watching Sunday Night Football and I thought, oh, wait a minute, I got to watch 60 Minutes. And I tuned in. Right as I tuned in, Charlie Rose asked Johnny Ive, and where's your office going to be? On the top floor. Scene. It's over.
Kind of embarrassed.
It's the only thing I learned.
Nobody has a corner office.
Yeah, because there are no corners. So you guys, it's up to you to fill me in. What did I miss? I know one thing. Tim Cook, did he actually get peeved by Charlie Rose pushing on the overseas tax issue?
I think he got animated. I don't know if he was peeved. I think
a little bit
was animated.
Well,
it was the Tim Cook you heard when the guy said, why do you waste all this money on environmentalism and accessibility? And then Tim Cook told him to get the hell out of the stock. It was a similar thing. What, this tax money? And Tim was like, we've already paid taxes on every dollar we earned in those countries.
We pay more.
To pay again in the U.S. We're the biggest taxpayer in the world.
Yeah. He does say it's awful for America. What he doesn't say is it's great for Apple. Because look, they're not breaking a law. We've talked about this before. They're not breaking a law, but they're taking advantage of a loophole that allows them to offshore significant amounts of money. And the way they do it is you open and Google does this too. A lot of companies do this. I want to do it. I'm about to do it. Yeah, all of them. Although it's less favorable than it used to be, but you open a division in Ireland, which has had zero corporate tax. I think they're changing that.
They didn't have zero corporate tax. They had, I believe it was 12%, or they're 12% on, and then now they're dropping it to 6, I believe, or 12.5%. That was dropped to 6 point. Yeah, they're dropping it, but they're removing some of the loopholes and moving it to 6.25. Not that I've had to research this.
So what they do then, what Apple did and Google does and others, is they license key technologies to the Irish division, and then they pay license fees, which is a way to offshore profits. And there's a Dutch turnaround somewhere in there. I don't know.
Dutch-Irish sandwich. To get to zero, I think that what they do is they do something. There's another piece of that to get to zero. So they're not paying the 12.5%. And what Ireland's trying to do is go to 6.25%, but then remove some of those loopholes, so they actually, which would be good for Ireland.
In any event, it is completely legal, and if it were me and I were making all that money, I guess I would consider doing this. But I also think, and Cook was called before a congressional committee a few years ago to testify about this, but they didn't change the tax law. They didn't eliminate the loophole. They just investigated it. And then, because I'm sure and let's also say that I'm sure Apple and others are lobbying. They're spending as much money as they can on Congress members so that this law stays this way.
It's interesting because a lot of the stuff that we've seen is just business. International law does not keep up very quickly with things like technology and things like the internet, which basically destroy the idea of borders and who do you owe money to? If Apple is selling something in Germany and they're paying taxes in Germany, they have to pay taxes on the same money in the U.S. Can a German company then ask U.S. companies who are doing business in Germany to pay taxes on all their? Everyone is going to want everything at a certain point. At a logical conclusion, everyone that has any bit of data going through them might have some claim on money from that data. And I think we have to come up with a system, and you see this with everything, with shipping, with purchasing, with how companies do all of their business, that we don't have a good system for handling anything internationally, finance, licensing rights, anything.
Well, and our tax rate is very high. I mean, I think that the corporate tax rate in the United States
doesn't matter. That's the rate. I pay it. You pay it. I don't think you're offshoring your.
No, I'm not.
Doesn't matter. That's the rate, and you could say yes if it's legitimate income. Overseas income, but if a company is intentionally doing this, creating an Irish division, transferring licenses over,
we should look. I don't think that
that's a conscious effort to defer taxes, not illegal.
But the question is, and I don't actually know the answer, is how much of the money that Apple keeps offshore is U.S. generated, and how much of it is foreign, because 2/3 of their business is foreign. So I think that actually and I don't know this for sure, but I think that actually what's happening is that that Apple's just saying, we're not going to take any of the money that we make overseas. We're not going to bring it back to the U.S. I think that there are some companies that are offshoring that money, but I don't think that Apple's offshoring it, and I don't know that for certain. But I think that I think they are simply.
Google sure is doing it. I'm trying to remember.
Other companies are doing it, but I think that what Apple's doing specifically is saying the money that we earn overseas, we're not bringing into the United States. The money we make in the United States, we need. They need actually more money than in the United States.
They want to bring it back.
They would bring it back, and
No, I understand now they can't bring it back because they'd be double taxed.
Is it 40%, Leo? Is that what
40%? Although there was briefly an amnesty. I don't know if that amnesty's continued, but there was. Or at least proposed. I know Obama wanted to have an amnesty. They never did it.
No.
Yeah, see, so you also have to blame Congress, and maybe a lot, because they created this situation. But every single one of these companies that's benefiting has lobbied heavily to keep this loophole, right? I mean, this is...
Right. And
I would too. It's your talking about $1 billion in taxes. It's a lot of money.
Well, and the bottom line is that you're in a situation where the Democrats want to give an amnesty and the Republicans want to make it permanent. And so and that's why it's not moving forward.
So the point is that this isn't money. Some of it's money earned offshore. Some of it's sales of Macs.
I believe with Apple, it's all of the money that's overseas.
Then that's not a big deal.
Yeah, I believe that
some companies do this license thing, and you're saying Apple does not do this.
I don't believe they do because I think that they're selling.
And there's nothing.
Yeah.
They're selling enough overseas that
two thirds
okay.
of their profits are overseas.
If that's the case, then there isn't an issue.
They're just saying they won't
I
bring
don't
it
know
back
either.
into the U.S. I mean, people still say, well, you're a U.S. company and you should be bringing you
No,
pay
yeah,
taxes
I don't.
on everything you
I
earned.
don't
and
disagree
think-
with that. I don't think you want to be double taxed. If you're getting taxed in China for Chinese sales, whatever that tax rate is, that's what you're paying. Now you can't repatriate that money, and that's why
they're not repatriating. And that's why they take loans out to do buybacks. And they're, so it's the crazy thing that Apple's doing is they're paying interest to banks so
They're
that they
accruing
can
debt.
so that they can pay down. And they have debt that they would I'm sure they'd be happy to pay off at a lower percentage than what they're paying right now.
Cook says the tax code was made for the industrial age, not the digital age. In other words, we're in a global market right now.
Yeah.
And so the tax code needs to reflect that, although I kind of think it does.
Again,
here's the clip if you want to see it. This is from CNN Money.
How do you feel when you go before Congress and they say, you're a tax avoider?
What I told them, and what I'll tell you and the folks watching tonight, is we pay more taxes in this country than anyone.
Well, they know that, and you should, because of how much money you make.
Well, I don't deny that. We happily pay it.
But you also have more money overseas, probably, than any other
we
American
do, because
company.
as I said before, 2/3 of our business is over there.
Yeah. But
And
why
so
don't you bring
obviously,
that home, is the question.
I'd love to bring it home.
Why don't you?
Because it would cost me 40% to bring it home. And I don't think that's a reasonable thing to do. This is a tax code, Charlie, that was made for the industrial age.
I don't think
not
Tim's
the digital
explaining
age.
it well.
It's backwards. It's awful for America. It should have been fixed many years ago. It's past time to get it done.
But here's what they concluded. Apple is engaged in a sophisticated scheme to pay little or no corporate taxes on $74 billion in revenues held overseas.
That is total political crap. There's no truth behind it. Apple pays every tax dollar we owe.
And here's the thing.
That's the debate, is whether they are it's a tax avoidance scheme or.
Well, and let's make sure we're clear that we use many people use H&R Block because their job is to make sure that the individual pays
I pay not
the
a
minimum
penny more than I have to.
I pay every penny that I'm
not
due to
one
the
penny
government.
more.
And if you show me a model that has me legally not pay another 2 pennies, I'm not going to do it. And almost every American would be the same way. So the whole thing is that the issue is that we act like Apple's doing something that we wouldn't do if we weren't if we were in the same position. Of course, we would just repatriate it. No American would say, "Oh, I'm going to just repatriate and give up 40% of it." They'd be like, "I'm going to keep it overseas and take a lot of vacations."
The only thing I would have a problem with is if, and I know some companies do this, and this is what I'm trying to find out. I'm doing a search as fast as I can, whether Apple does this, which is this whole kind of runaround to avoid taxes by creating an offshore division, transferring licenses to that offshore division, and then paying out money to those.
And I don't think that they do that. And specifically, I think one of the problems for them is that they're a hardware company. I mean, I think a lot of the companies that do that are intellectual. They can do that totally.
Yeah.
I don't think Apple can do that as easily, and so I think that's not the case. But I am.
But
not know
if
for sure.
it's merely money that they've earned in sales overseas, I don't have a problem with that at all. That's
right. And I believe that's the issue.
Microsoft has $108 billion offshore. IBM $61 billion offshore. Cisco $53 billion. Google $47 billion. HP $43 billion. Oracle $38 billion. Intel $23 billion. This is a wide practice. And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with it if the money is earned offshore. The issue is if there's some sort of scheme legal scheme to do that. All right,
I think.
Go ahead, Andy, and then we'll.
I was just going to say, I think his tone of voice during that interview sort of says it all. That he was very, very patient and very, very explanatory when they're talking about Apple's corporate tax structure and how they do that sort of business. And it wasn't he didn't start getting not loud but forceful when the conversation shifted from. Does it look a little bit weird that Apple is not paying as much tax as they're making internationally? It's only when they talk about, well, are they in a tax avoidance scheme? Are they trying to get away with something? When he just makes it's just like like you alluded to a moment ago, that if you have the ability to hire an accountant to do your taxes, you will pay a lot less in taxes because he or she knows that a lot of the stuff that you buy, you can actually write off. That there's a lot of ways to, if you inherit $15,000 or $20,000, there's things you can do with that money so that you don't have to pay $22,000 in income. And there are people who can't afford attorneys, and they don't have the expertise, and they have to use the short form. In which case, it probably is going to kind of hit him in the neck. And this is being done on a much, much larger scale, obviously, but it's foolish to assume that a company with the resources of Apple or Microsoft are not going to try to do everything that is legally possible to try to avoid having to pay taxes that they're not legally required to pay. So it's until someone actually proves fraud, I think this is a non-issue.
It's not fraud. I don't think it's fraud. I think it's legal. But the question is, are they doing the double Irish with a Dutch sandwich? Or is this just tax that
show title?
That right? No, that's actually the name of it. It's a tax avoidance technique employed by certain large corporations involving the use of a combination of Irish and Dutch subsidiary companies to shift profits to low or no tax jurisdictions. The double Irish with a Dutch sandwich involves sending profits first through one Irish company, then to a Dutch company, then to a second Irish company headquartered in a tax haven.
It's also the name of something that's totally legal in Nevada.
It sounds delicious.
It might even be a bigger problem for the EU because if they have favorable tax rates, it's probably money from the EU that's going to Ireland.
Well, that's a good point. Actually, that's another good point. It's a mess. The tax code is a mess. That's why you have to hire
for our taxes.
Right. I don't know what we spend every year with a CPA firm. We have bookkeeping all year long. We have CPA firm. We probably spend $5,000-$10,000 a year just to do the taxes. Maybe more,
at least.
Yeah,
for us.
And then I would more than 40% of Twit's revenue goes to IRS and state. But that's the price of living in a great country. I'm sorry, that's fine. Your tax rate's even higher, Rene. I'm sure.
I think it's pretty much just half of everything.
Mm-hmm. But it's fair.
It's like 30 to 50% income tax, and then 15.5% sales tax, and 10% luxury tax, and it goes up.
Anything else? So we saw Johnny Ive's design.
That was so cool. They showed like the 10 different iPhones the different size ones that they were prototyping before they did the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus. And he spoke about why they chose the 4.7 and the 5.5. And they showed his sketchbook, and he had this pen and paper sketchbook where he'd drawn the Apple Watch, and then the CNC machine that was carving it out of aluminum after they put it on AutoCAD.
Did you notice he was using one of those pens? The pen that Johnny Ive was using was one of those ones that records everything that you write.
Digitally. Was he?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I have one of those. I don't use it.
You're such a gimmick.
Cool. That's what he's using, though. I mean, that's what I'm sure.
Yeah, they're the 10 phones.
That's kind of cool.
And they have the CNC mill that I want.
Look at all the tables are covered with.
Like
he said that's the 2016 products.
Oh man, wouldn't you like to just peek under there?
And they showed, I forget his first name, Townsend was showing the camera, the optical image stabilizing camera from the iPhone 6s Plus, and all the different components that go into it, including the tiny 1/4 hair width wires that suspend the entire assembly for the stabilization.
Cool. Did they leak a new MacBook?
No.
That's not the article.
That was the dumbest story on the internet yesterday. Apologies to anybody who wrote it, but really, you got to stop that kind of stuff.
Well, what did we see?
So that's Bruce Sewell, who's Apple's general counsel. So he's the head lawyer of Apple, and the idea was that somebody accidentally left a prototype widescreen or large screen MacBook, like new generation MacBook behind him.
It does look good. What is it?
Oops.
Is it?
If you scroll down, you can see some pictures.
It's just his Surface Pro 4.
It does kind of look like, okay. It's just a regular MacBook.
And it's not the first time because they supposedly leaked a widescreen iPhone and supposedly leaked an iPad. It's always just the camera. The human brain and human eyes, you can't trust them. Things like perspective and angles, they mess with you.
And I think when you have a crew, I'm often that crew that goes through someone's office to shoot these interviews, and the amount of work that's done with everything that's sitting behind people, if there's no oops. If they did that, they did it on purpose, but if they didn't. I mean, what I'm saying is we spend so much time, every plant, every little shade of light and all those things are all stuff that's
all carefully calculated. None of this, in other words, none of this is actually Jeff Williams' background of his actual office.
It could be his office, but what they set up and where they set it, and there's probably diffusion between that in the window, and there's all kinds of things that.
But we should mention that is BB-8 reflected in the screen. So I don't know what.
Well, it's funny because again, that's their head lawyer sitting there. Across from him is Phil Schiller walking in. There's the head of PR pacing back and forth. There's the head of of hardware engineering and of platform technology sitting across from them. There is the chance of this being a leaked product is below zero.
Yeah, and I imagine it was scrubbed by a team of trained, Uzi bearing,
they're all
Mossad trained PR flacks who were, I can't, Yeah, this is way too.
Every camera angle is approved. It's
every
outward.
Alex might know more about this than anybody else, but is it at that kind of a scale? Is it possible that a company will actually maintain a couple of clean offices? That if they need to have someone coming in for an interview, they can basically say, "Okay, you are moving into this office for the next 48 hours." Where everything there is closely vetted, that the person doesn't.
There's definitely a lot of offices. There's definitely a lot of offices that are very general. I mean, most of them are just the conference rooms. Right. That are generally.
You don't
just
want
empty.
this to be in your office because they have to set up lights. There's going to be all sorts of technicians.
We very rarely interview anyone in their own office.
Real office. They want to.
We do a lot of them where we interview like a CEO. We'll interview them right outside their office, so that they can keep on having their meetings and everything else, and we set it up in some kind of general area. Right. Yeah, so that's pretty common too.
Yeah. And what's funny is if you've ever dealt with Apple, even once a product has been announced and it's still not available for sale, it is under lock and key, and even other people, highly placed people in Apple, cannot get to it. So it's really well taken care of.
I was just thinking about when I wrote my review of the Amazon Echo, and I thought that a beautiful photo would be. I had, like I said before, I have it on the pass through between the kitchen and my living room because it's the perfect place for a device like that. So, great, that's perfect. So I talk about that specifically, so that'll be product shot. And I actually had to spend 2 hours, not necessarily cleaning the kitchen, but making sure that there was nothing in view there. That why does he have a picture of Pope Paul and on the back there? It's I don't have to explain to everybody. Look, it hung in my grandmother's house. Every time I come to visit, I'd see it, and so every time I'm not really that religious. And yeah, I mean, I can't imagine.
Not to mention rubbing it with cooking oil to give it just the right sheen. There's a lot of work that goes into this kind of stuff.
Wait a minute, wasn't that one of the paintings that was stolen from the Gardner Museum in 1993?
That's where you want to watch out. Anything else from the 60 Minutes interview?
I thought it was interesting when he was talking about they were talking a little bit about workers in China.
Oh, were they?
Yeah, they talked a little bit about that. And
you know what? Charlie Rose is not known for hard hitting. I mean, he is in real life, but the 60 Minutes is usually puff pieces.
You know, it's interesting. Lately, well, most people say, "Oh, it was a puff piece." He actually dug into a couple things there.
Good.
I guess what was interesting about it was that he said that the problem really, according to Tim Cook, is that the number of skilled labor, not that we don't have skilled labor in the United States, we just don't have them at that mass.
Right.
That we don't do that that kind of training anymore.
Right.
That you just couldn't get that many people to be able to build.
And they'd want $35 an hour.
Well, also anecdotally, my grandfather went to the German trade schools, and the minute he moved to Canada, he got a job immediately doing metalwork for frigates because they just did not have people who went to convocational schools.
And the thing is that what they're saying, Sandman said, is the tool and die makers, that type of thing, just isn't something we have a system for anymore, and it's something that China spent an enormous amount of energy training people in because they're manufacturing.
They're $5 a day. I mean, they don't talk about that, but that's another part of it.
Well, and they're also right next to each other. Here. So if you have one component, you can just literally walk in Shenzhen to the place that has the other component. Everything is packed close. It's almost like having a city that is a factory for you.
And why is the United States not making concerted effort to duplicate Shenzhen? I'll tell you why. They can't meet the price. Even if we built it, made it.
Well, we have, Apple does have a factory in the United States.
Yes,
they have a couple in Texas.
Factory. No, but I think that one is very telling because that factory,
all robots,
and Foxconn already has test facilities. Right. So the thing is that this whole because there was the other thing that came out this week was BBC had a piece about labor and everything else. And the thing is that what Apple is fixing this. They're not fixing it immediately. It's a big moving target. But the way they're fixing it is not going to be that they're going to pay everyone more and make it better or whatever dramatically. What they're going to do is they're going to automate 80% of it, and the other 20% are going to get paid really well because they have to manage the machines. But they're not. This is not the. That's the Apple factory in Texas or whatever it is what China is going to look like in 10 years, maybe 15. So they're just kind of moving through that, and the fact that it only takes a couple dollars an hour to make that accelerate the speed of that process.
And we're also complicit because we want cheap stuff. I mean, our willingness to pay for things that cost that much more to manufacture is not there.
Although I've seen a number of studies that say it wouldn't even cost that much more, but every little bit, I guess.
Well, and for me,
at first it wouldn't cost that much more, but once we get through with them, it would cost more.
Yeah.
I worked at
Also, a lot of these companies are just really kind of savage negotiators. I mean, Walmart is kind of notorious for bringing even like a known manufacturer in and saying that, yes, you want to sell this plastic tub to us for $1.17 per unit. We know that you can make it for as cheap as 87 cents per unit, so that's how much we're going to pay you. And they say, well, no, because I do this domestically. Well, then you move the manufacturing overseas. Well, but we give our workers health care. Well, you don't have to give them health care. Use temporary workers. And so there's just a lot of pressure from a lot of different
minimum wage in China.
Yeah.
Minimum wage, of course, is $167 a month.
And that's probably also in one of the industrial areas and not reflective of China in the smaller, in the more poorer
it's
areas.
probably less, right? That's right. So I'm trying to decipher this document.
It is cheap, highly skilled labor that is positioned right next to the cheap, highly skilled labor that makes the other part that you happen to need.
Yeah,
no,
there's convenience. There's convenience, but as I say, we could build it. We could train them. Wouldn't get any business because it's still so much cheaper in China. So I think that's why nobody's doing that.
And the other issue is
outsourced from China.
Well, the other thing is that it's easier to use your offshore money to pay for manufacturing in China than it is to use your onshore money. If you brought it back to the United States, you'd have to use the money that you made in the United States. So that's a whole. You'd have to repatriate more funds. This whole tax issue is all connected as well.
It's related
to offshore.
Incidentally, even if you were able to meet Chinese prices, according to this study, this is from 2013. China's overwhelming manufacturing cost advantage over other Asian countries is shrinking fast. So Thailand, Vietnam, India, and Indonesia are all competing with China for the lowest cost.
But it's also that's why Foxconn, though, is also, with money from Apple, is spending a lot of money on
skilled workers, special machines,
automation.
Yeah, and robots. Yeah,
but automation is what's going to, you're going to have a lot of people in really good conditions in 15 years. Just there'll be a lot less of them. That's
sad.
It's a whole other, it creates a whole other problem.
Yeah. Still trying to find kind of some sort of for a skilled worker.
But yeah, so my first job out of high school was shipping and receiving for an electronics company, and I got paid minimum wage. I think it was $3.50 an hour, $3.25 an hour.
Average assembly worker in Shenzhen now makes about 2,000 renminbao, which is $328 a month. But considering the standard of living is comparable to $2,000 a month. So I think that's not so much lower than U.S. It's right
lower
at the poverty
in
level.
It's an incredibly complicated system that if you look at any part of it is maddening just on a human level, but it's hard to extract one part and not look at the reflection of the whole.
Yeah. Well, there are very few people who are even qualified to analyze this. Unfortunately, there are people in human rights campaigns that do have a very balanced view of things. So whenever I look at reports like this, I'm always skeptical that workers are being treated as well as they should be. But I always have to realize that this is something I have absolutely no qualification.
It's so hard to judge,
And it's good that it's getting attention. I mean, it's not just Apple. It's absolutely most companies, but Apple gets so much attention for the good stuff that they do. It's good if they get attention for everything because it can only help the industry.
Yeah. But it also means that it's important for journalists to keep asking these questions because I think that one of the roles of journalists is to make sure that a company like Apple, Walmart, Microsoft, anybody always is aware that they could be, at some point they might be on TV being asked a very pointed question and they really want to be able to give the right answers. It's only when they realize that, well, absolutely nobody cares about this. No one is shining a light on this. It's not as though we want our workers to die, but we're not really well motivated to make sure that we're doing more than it is. We're using this phrase again, only in a much more dark connotation, that we're not going to be treating our workers any better than we are legally required to do so, that we're not going to make them any more safe than we are legally required to do. And it's this kind of light that says that, well, maybe we will actually treat them a little better than we are legally required to do because we don't want to explain here is why there's a really booming market in prosthetic hands and fingers near the factory where we make our widgets.
Well, and I think public relations, in the next 10 years is going to become much more important than public regulation because it is something that, all these companies have to, it's their product, it's their sales, it's, all those things become, much more important. And so I agree with you that constantly talking about it. I mean, there's a lot of people right now, like for instance, I just watched there's a company that's now tracking. They're identifying diamonds and then putting them on the blockchain.
Interesting.
So that you can track them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And when they, as they go down that path, it means that you really, blood diamonds become very difficult because everything's going through a trusted network.
That's interesting.
Which increases the value of diamonds because it lowers the overall global supply of diamonds because a lot of them are coming from places that are just kind of washed into the system.
We also saw the new building, right? That's what the one part I saw. Did we learn anything about the
Campus
new circle?
2.
Campus 2.
It's pretty.
Putting in the largest curved glass panels in the world, Leo, and many of them.
Gorgeous. And when will it be done? Did they mention that?
I think they said next year.
Next year. Yeah. Well, 2017 next year. 2016? This coming year?
I think Andy's right, 2017, but I think in the show they said next year, and I don't quite know what that meant, but I'll have to double listen again.
That's the first time I've heard 2016 as that number. Maybe they're talking about the difference between first occupancy in 2016, full occupancy in 2017. But I've always heard both inside and outside 2017 is.
Looks like it's coming along quite well. Yes.
There's got to be a Mario Kart track at the bottom. There just has to be.
What a lost opportunity. It's like think about all of us that let's say that we have unlimited financial resources and we can build whatever we want on a plot of land. There is no way I am not having like at least one whole secret subterranean level with either a fake rock or a fake doghouse like in Hogan's Heroes that will allow me to sneak in and out for no other reason than for me to know that I can sneak in and out at all times. There's no way I'm not doing something crazy that I don't want people to know about.
And it's supposed to be all solar panels, so it'll be off-grid like your place, Leo.
Completely off-grid?
That's what I believe that's what they said on the show.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
That's one of the goals. Like since the first planning meeting, the first I heard, I seem to remember the first time I heard about it, they were mentioning that, if not an actual reality on opening day, but at least the extended goal. And a company like that can do it.
They also showed the warehouse where they keep the model Apple store that Angela Ahrendts goes into every week and tries to tweak things and work on the design.
Angela Ahrendts got interviewed too, kind of one of her first public appearances.
She's really well spoken.
Yeah, tell me about that.
She's just explaining what they have to go through and what they're trying to figure out, and when it comes to the experience at the store, and because that's what she's really focused on.
You think I'll ever get to set foot in that campus? Probably not.
Of course you will.
No, Cafe Max. No, it's really interesting because she said that everyone now is used to an iPhone, and she wants to make she wants to make a retail store that's as responsive, dynamic, and interesting for people as their head being buried in an iPhone, which sounds like a strange but interesting challenge.
Well, what a great job, though, to get to really think out of the box about retail and have the resources.
Well, she's the right person to do it, too. I mean, if you look at what she did with Burberry, I mean, it's, I've seen, they do a lot. Burberry was very tightly used Salesforce for a lot, so I saw her in a lot of events.
Oh, really?
And so she's a smart cookie.
All right. Cool. What else? Anything else we gleaned from the 60 Minutes piece?
For me, it was just the technical stuff. And apparently there was stuff we didn't get to see because it got cut for time that I hope they do more segments on. But just seeing the camera, seeing the prototyping, seeing the CNC machines, seeing all the designers working there. They did color swatches to show how they came up with the different colors for the sports band. That kind of stuff to me is like making of. It's endlessly fascinating.
I was trying to figure out which 3D app they were modeling in. I couldn't. Me
too.
I think it's Alias Studio or some Alias product.
That's what we need. We need a frame-by-frame breakdown.
I know. I almost went through it. I was like, I may go back, and I was trying to figure it out. I was like, what program?
that move.
It was either Moto or an Alias product, and I just the Alias product would be more likely just because it has a lot of surface tools that you would want if you were building something.
A lot of cinema displays and Mac Pros in that room.
Did he say that 800 people are working on the iPhone camera?
Yep.
800.
800 people? 800?
That's hardware and software. And a lot of that happened. Like they talked. My understanding too is that they undersold a lot of the performance. Like when they gave numbers about how fast this stuff is, they were incredibly conservative. And the amount of power they get out of that A9 to do calculations for that camera. Because remember, there's a whole team just making the physical camera package, and then a whole team making the software, a whole team doing the chipset, the image signal processor as well.
Pretty impressive.
It almost seems like the more you know about the engineering behind any modern iPhone, the more you wonder if the iPhone team designs a camera and then they put phone stuff inside it too, because when you talk about how fast can it move data from one section of the device to another, when you talk about how fast can it process, how many threads can it do at the same time, it seems as though every single one of those choices was at least informed by the needs of the camera. And when you also look at how it's taking pictures, where it's not just expose the sensor and then close the exposure of the sensor, then write a JPEG, where it's actually always trying to figure out what the best solution is going to be, and then before you even touch the shutter button, and then deciding that the best solution is for the camera to actually take 3 or 4 pictures and then fuse them together without even being asked. Not talking about HDR. I'm talking about we'll do one exposure for light, we'll do one exposure for clarity, and then we'll meld those two together. It's just, I mean, it's always bears remembering that the most popular camera on the planet, a popular digital camera on the planet right now, is an iPhone.
Well, if you look at the Flickr, I think the top 8 of the top 10 cameras used in Flickr are Canon and Apple.
Yeah,
I think that Apple is
the iPhone
top
is by
4.
far the number one.
Yeah,
camera.
and I mean, and it shows. I mean, I'm taking great pictures with my Nexus 5X. I'm not regretting that at all. I'm taking just beautiful pictures with it. But every time I take a shot with it, I can always appreciate the difference between a shutter that is just boom, one fraction of a second, capture, and human interface concerns that it has some mistakes, I think, in it, but it's just so much slicker. This is, I mean, a camera like a decent one like this is okay for, I'm in a museum and I want to take a beautifully composed picture of this. It is not really as good as the iPhone when it comes to something is happening. I want to get a picture of it before my son or daughter stops being adorable and starts reflecting their own true natures again.
Apparently, if you get the 60 Minutes app, you can watch not only the original piece, but you can watch additional material. Well, you know, I'm
it's
looking
on their
at
website too.
The app's been kind of infuriating. Watching on the website on a Mac has been the best way for
Oh my gosh, their app is so broken. Like I was trying to watch this last night, and I was just like,
it's so ironic.
Really?
Look at this. Look at this. They had 3 cameras at least on this shoot. There's on the right. There's one on sticks. There's a handheld. Can you identify those cameras, Alex? And then there's one we're shooting from. So there's at least, I mean,
and they're just firing different colored lights to do exposure tests over and over.
Those are Canons. I think they're using Canon C300s.
Interesting.
I can't see for sure, but
we get a shot of the guy in the background. They didn't make any effort to hide the cameras, which I found interesting. This is probably a very tight space. Yeah, so you can see the guy back in there.
But
remember how it blew
the
our
bokeh
minds?
looked like a C300.
What's that? That's a big ass camera.
Hold on that angle. Hold on.
And there's Graham Townsend doing the explanation.
Yeah, awesome. Graham Townsend is the guy.
No. It's
just a regular old.
I think so. Hold on.
It's not Betacam SP. I can tell you that right now. Anyway, yeah, pretty impressive, and it just Apple, which is interesting, knew before anybody that the camera on the phone was going to be a key differentiator, and I mean, you don't build that team overnight. And it's really paid off for them. Although it's interesting, there's also, being the first, there's that legacy problem where, like, for instance, there's still fewer megapixels on Apple's cameras than on any other state-of-the-art camera phone these days.
12 is right in the middle of the bandwidth.
12's not bad.
It's
and it may be better. I don't know.
Well, I think it is better. I've tried a lot of like 20 and 22 megapixel phone cameras, and it's hard to say that the added resolution is giving you anything that's better than an iPhone 6.
Right.
The difference between the iPhone's 8 and another camera's 12 was pretty big, because 8, that's kind of the tipping point where you just don't have the ability to reframe or recompose. But I mean, there's a reason why I've kind of stopped posting real side-by-side comparisons publicly on Flickr. I still take them to learn myself, but it's not just a question of what picture did I result with, but what was the process in getting that picture? How much of a pain in the butt was this to get that picture? And the reason why the iPhone remains the best camera is not necessarily because of image quality, but because it is consistently the least painful pain in the butt for getting an easy and great picture.
I forgot, I have to find it, but a couple of years ago, I did a podcast with the mobile editor at Nantech, who was also a optical engineer, and he explained very carefully why everything is a compromise with cameras on smartphones, and you have to choose, like, a bigger aperture gives you this, but a lower aperture gives you that, and a bigger, and he kept stressing that Apple was making incredibly smart choices with their compromises, that yes, they could push this or that way, but it would make it worse in another characteristic, and he felt that they were really were choosing their compromises very, very well for the goal they wanted to achieve with the cameras. And I think that's still the case. They can do a lot with 12 megapixels. That doesn't result in tiny little pixels drawing in less light. They can do a lot. They're willing to do a camera bump now, which they weren't in the past, because they know that there's a compromise for the way people look at it, but it gives them that depth that they need for the lens. So I think, again, yeah, it's not as big as some, but it produces really, really good results with what they're doing.
The good news is, at this point, I think it's safe to say all the top-of-the-line cameras are pretty darn good, but each has its own distinct feel, which is interesting. And you might well pick it, you know, at this point, you're not picking it because one's much better than the other. You're picking it because you like how that one looks or how fast that one focuses. And, you know, but I have to say, every time I take a picture with the iPhone, I'm always struck by just balance is a good word. On overall, this is a picture I took of the Leica with the iPhone, and it feels to me like it nailed it. You know, the detail, the color, the light.
They optimized for you taking it out of your pocket, taking a photo, and putting it back in as fast as possible.
Yeah, I mean, this is as good as an SLR photo would have been. I think maybe better because it was easy.
Somebody on Twitter was asking me for advice on the DxO camera. No, that Sony sensor accessory for the iPhone, and asking. I told them that, well, it takes good pictures, but it's not really very convenient to use, so I'm not really recommending it. And they asked, well, what would you recommend? And I very seriously said, well, either a pocket camera on this, rather, I'm sorry, if you're looking for someone who wants an alternative to carrying around an SLR all day, and I said, well, either one of Sony's really good RX100 cameras that start at $500 and they go all the way to $1,000, and they're size of a deck of cards to take beautiful pictures. Or, and I didn't mean this in a sarcastic way, just simply accept that your phone camera, if you bought it in the last year or so, takes fantastic pictures, and it has a few limitations, but you can easily get around them. I mean, it's
Alex still likes it and uses his DxO.
I still use the DxO a lot. The thing is, so if I
just don't want to carry it around, you know.
For me, the problem was it was just such a. It took great pictures like in the studio when I was basically taking it out. The real test was I spent like 3 hours at the Metropolitan Museum of Art using it the way that I would use like a conventional camera, and it was such a pain in the butt to fire it up and get it loaded again and make sure that it's connecting to the camera and connecting to the device. And even with a software update, it didn't work as well as it just wasn't as convenient as take either the iPhone bare or an actual standalone camera at. I want to take a picture. I lift it up. I take the picture. I see that the picture got took, and then I put the camera down again. It was just such. It was too complicated.
I think for me, for some reason, I must have the right mix of whatever because I always connect to it and it always works. so I don't know what I'm doing differently than anybody else.
I'm going to try it again with the latest firmware. I did wait. As a matter of fact, I held off on writing about it until the next. I felt that I'm having a bad enough time that maybe I don't want to slam it based on version 1.0 of anything. But even so, it's for me. It was just hard to. As a walking around camera.
If I'm hanging,
not everyone uses cameras the same way though.
Well, and if I'm hanging around, the big thing is you can always tell if I decide that the images are important because I pull the DxO out. Like so, the thing is I don't carry other cameras, but if I'm taking pictures of my kids and I want to remember that and I'm going to actually want to print it, then I want the 20 megapixels. I want the shorter depth of field. I want the better low light. So the thing is I kind of turn it up. It's not that I use it every single time I take a photo. I take lots of photos on my iPhone, but I think that when I decide that this is going to be something I'm going to want to save. What I like is the fact that I have something in my pocket that I can pull out and just add a little bit of pizzazz to it. I don't think it works that well in daylight, like a lot of like that. I just use my iPhone for.
It also has a problem with light bloom.
Yes, and so that's
bright
areas I don't and that's not what I use it for. But when I use it when I'm taking pictures of my kids or that type of thing, I find that it's great. I like being able to. So the other thing I like to be able to do is you can take a lightning adapter and then I can have it separate from the camera, which is a whole nother thing. And then I take pictures by itself without the camera because no one notices that I'm taking pictures.
Is this EXIF information in my iPhone picture wrong? It says that this is 4.15 millimeters. That can't be right. That would be so wide angle. But what's interesting is the iPhone was smart.
There's math involved.
Oh, because of the size of the
right, 35 millimeter equivalent.
Right. It's not 30,
not equivalent. It's not being calculated.
But the ISO is 64. So this was just inside with the sun coming in, and it chose 1/4 of a second and somehow got a crystal clear that you could tell when you zoom in on the text. That's the OIS, and it did this perfectly. And I would have never, using a DSLR, shot it at a quarter of a second.
No,
handheld.
absolutely not.
I would have set the ISO much higher, but it chose a very low ISO, which is nice. It gave it such crispness. You know, that's amazing.
That's what I like about the Olympus that Lisa has that I bought.
The OMD
like
EM5.
I've handheld shots as low as like 1/5 of a second and just tack sharp because of that 5-axis stabilization.
It's really amazing.
I do notice that Apple has the iPhone has a quirk that as Rene said, there's always trade-offs, and you have to, when you're planning out how this camera is going to operate, you have to decide how is it going to operate and what do you think the user is going to want to have traded off. When it gets into a low light situation, the iPhone tends to say, I don't want to crank up the ISO because that'll add a lot of noise and it's going to look crummy. So I'd much rather choose a longer shutter speed, which is usually okay unless your subject is moving, which means that you're not going to get it tack sharp. The Nexus 5X and 6P, it doesn't even have optical image stabilization, even when you get to the 6P level. But it does have a wider aperture. And it also, as a consequence of that, the designers decided we're going to let it do shorter shutter speeds whenever it can do, just to make sure it's freezing motion. So that's why the one area in which this camera, for instance, is generally better than the iPhone is when I'm taking those squirrel pictures, because you can't get a squirrel or a little kid to stay still.
Well, and zoom
it's always
valuable.
It's always a little bit blurry on the iPhone.
Optical zoom is excellent. I'm just impressed, given the light. It was fairly low light, and the speed and the crispness of. I mean, I'm way zoomed in on this text. There's a little grain, but not much.
And it's great.
It's pretty. It kind of shocked me when I saw this picture.
Right.
It was like, that's a camera phone.
It is, especially when you start looking. I put all the ones that I like, all the pictures I take that I like on Flickr, and I was going through my collection of last week and realizing that I can't tell by sight which ones were taken with this really nice professional level camera and what were taken with phones. I actually started. I'm looking for it right now, but I actually created an album called "Camera Phones Kick Butt." With not just iPhone cameras, but also just any other camera. It just really reminded me that that if you know how your camera works and you know how to use it, it's kind of unsophisticated to think that I should buy a more expensive one of these, or I need to pay more for the special lens or this sort of thing. I've taken photos with the 6S Plus that are just so good and so natural. Here's another point that I want to make in that sidecar, and I've just pasted in the link into Google Sheets chat if you want to take a look at it. It's like I was in LA and just taking a long walk, and I was in front of the LA County Museum of Art, where they have that installation of just 100 like street lamps, and someone was having their wedding pictures taken, and I'm just standing there, and without trying to be as inobtrusive as possible, just like taking pictures and really enjoying the pictures I was taking. And I was also kind of in that photography zone where I was trying to get the right composition and seeing if I get a little bit lower than the photographer, will that look like this, and how do I? And it wasn't until like I started walking back to the hotel, or got my Uber back to the hotel, I realized that, you idiot, while you were taking pictures with the iPhone 6S, you had this really expensive Olympus Pro camera at your side that you could have taken, but you were just so immersed.
I should point out that this is a 5X, though. This is shot with a Nexus, but you make
that one.
It says 5X.
Okay, I thought that was okay.
Let me reduce it and look again at the EXIF. But when I hovered over it, it said let's see, where's the info?
Nope, that's definitely 6S.
Oh, okay.
Those are tags that I imported it with.
Okay.
The first one, the one of the statue in front of the person on the balcony, that was shot with a 5X.
Well, I mean, yeah, your point in this is that all of the camera phones are pretty damn amazing, right?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, looking at that in my camera roll, especially like the interiors of those churches that I shot with the
very difficult to shoot.
Nexus,
yeah,
it's like I would not have any complaint whatsoever if I had shot that with a $3,000 camera.
Yeah, this is a 6P. And, I have to say the BlackBerry Priv is actually a pretty damn good camera.
Well, it has to be. I mean, people use their cameras on their phone more than their phone. You
sell
cannot
it
do
otherwise,
it.
Yeah. The days of, that's kind of my point, which is while the iPhone is clearly doing stuff that nobody else is doing, you can say that, as you say here in your Flickr album. Phone cameras kick butt these days.
Yeah, you used to have to give up on a phone if you wanted something other.
Right.
Sorry, give up on a camera if you wanted something else.
The
And now
Nexus
you don't have to do
5
that anymore.
And I guess the Moto G. There are still, camera phones out there that aren't very good, but
the message is that there's almost always a way to get the shot.
If
with
you know
almost any decent, it used to be, okay, there's no point for me even trying to take this picture because it's too dark. It'll be either blurry or too shaky, or there's no point me trying to take a picture of that sunset. There's too many interesting colors. It's not going to be able to get it. Now it's just like any decent pocket camera that would have cost $300 or $400 a couple of years ago. I still desperately wish it had a flash. One of the greatest things about the Nokia Lumia 1050 was that it simply not only did it have a 40 megapixel sensor that actually worked, but also the fact that it had an actual strobe flash on it, which was actually functional and effective. If Apple only decided to say, we're going to create a hardware flash attachment that's integrated with the camera app that is actually controllable by the app itself, that would be the easiest $100 ever spent.
Well, it seems like someone could do that over Bluetooth or.
This is a remarkable camera phone picture. I can't believe the detail.
Yeah,
well, it's also a remarkable squirrel.
Yes.
Well, again, they know the deal though. They can have about as much.
And they run away.
Exactly. But that's another part of why I try not to do. I try to make it very clear. Like on that picture, I know I came to the park at the right time of day when the sun is low. I have made sure that the sun was facing Mr. Squirrel there, or Mrs. Squirrel.
You can't really tell. She's got some nuts, but I don't think it's. I think they're. Oh no, maybe those are just seeds. I'm sorry.
She does. That seems impossible.
But that's a very important point. But yet, Andy, that's true of any camera.
Yeah. Exactly.
Knowing the time of day, picking the right time, all of that is true on any camera. So. That's not really anything bad about a smartphone camera. You just have to know your camera. You have to know your tools.
Yeah, and I think sometimes rolling shutter. I just gotta say, sometimes a rolling shutter is
a great
nicest
effect
thing in the world.
Yeah, see, that's a great effect. You wouldn't have got that on the Olympus.
And I do think I wouldn't be surprised if we end up with all these cameras having global shutter at some point. Just because it's good. It's a good marketing thing.
Nice. Very nice. All right, let's take a break. I'm enjoying your pictures, though, as always, Andy. Really fun. If you don't follow Andy on Flickr, you should. Andy I is his handle. Flickr.com/Andy.
That's how long I've been a member of Flickr. My handle is a last name and a last initial.
First name and last initial. Really? You don't do that anymore?
No, because now I feel it's more. I can't always get Andy I, and I like to have like this for accounts that people want to be able to find me at. It has to be consistent, and also it would kill me if like I'm late in getting an account on the next Facebook, and someone else is Ihnatko on that thing. That would break my heart.
Yeah, so you're Ihnatko almost everywhere else.
I'm Ihnatko every place there. I want the public to find my stuff. Yes,
yeah. The name that no one can spell, but it's easy if you just know that. The mnemonic is I have no idea how to spell Ihnatko. Ihnatko. I do that, by the way, every time I type your name, Andy.
I believe it's still actually in the spell checker for Mac OS.
Oh, nice.
So if you capitalize I and if you spell it correctly, I think it was. I haven't checked it in a while, but for a long time that was definitely true.
Our show today brought to you by FreshBooks. If you are a freelancer or you have to do invoices at the end of the month, that's the worst. It's just a pain rummaging through the receipts to keep track of your expenses and then firing up Word and Excel and kind of, I just hate doing all of that. And I hated it for years until Amber MacArthur told me, hey, there's a company in Toronto, this was 2004, it's doing this new thing, very Web 2.0, she said at the time. Now I guess it's whatever it is, Web 5.0, but it's freshbooks.com. And man, it was a lifesaver. Here I am, just easily making invoices. I was billing Canada, so I had to have it in Canadian currency. No problem. They do the conversion automatically. It's even easier now. You can use the FreshBooks app to take pictures of receipts automatically, get them into your invoice. If you bill for time and hours, easy. The app will automatically, start and stop and then put it in the invoice. And FreshBooks does some of the things that are also kind of that you don't want to do. For instance, automatic reminders to customers who don't pay you on time. Although I have to say, you get paid faster with FreshBooks. I think part of it is because you can send it as an email, which has a pay me button on it. And clients don't mind. In fact, they prefer it, I believe, because, frankly, they hate the whole process of paying the bills as much as you hate of printing the bills and sending the bills. So when they just have a button that says, hey, pay this invoice, they'll do it fast and easy. Now, FreshBooks has a new ability to request a deposit ahead of time in FreshBooks, so you can get paid up front. Clients love doing this, too. No more covering costs out of pocket or waiting until the end of a project to get paid. FreshBooks handles the whole thing, does the middleman thing beautifully. You can track time. You can organize expenses. Their automated customer reviews report lets you see your reviews in one place. Easy to post them on your website. They're just adding a lot of nice features that make it your freelancer life a lot easier. They just added a new card reader. It's EMV enabled. That means it's chip card enabled. So you can swipe, or if you could dip the chip or swipe the stripe, baby. And the new FreshBooks app will automatically. What you do is you show, this is so cool on an iPad. You show the customer the invoice. If you're a contractor or, an inspector, if you come to the person's house, you show them the invoice. They say, fine, here's my credit card. You swipe it, and you're done. You're paid right there. I'm telling you, start it right now, 30 days free, and you'll wonder why you never did it before. It's changed my life. Could change yours, too. FreshBooks.com/MacBreak. FreshBooks.com/MacBreak. And if they ask you, I think they do it in the form, where'd you hear about it? Will you do me a favor and say MacBreak Weekly? That way everybody's happy. FreshBooks.com/MacBreak. We thank them so much for supporting our little podcast.
I'm fully chipped now. My last card got replaced.
Yeah. That took them a while. The law went into effect in like October and November. Actually, not law. I thought it was a law. But I think it was just the credit card companies insisted on it. The law said that whoever is the least secure is liable.
Right. Basically, the credit card companies, I think, either they
pushed the law.
They basically said if any vendor now that doesn't handle the chip,
it's not our fault.
If they get, you're going to be on the hook. So
dunged.
Created a lot of stimulus.
Dunged.
A stimulus in investment.
You wrote a good column, or I think Rene wrote this, on the Apple executive titles.
Yes.
Can you explain to me these new titles?
So there's really two separate things here. One is that titles were made public that had been internal to Apple for a while. The positions really. So Tim Cook was chief operating officer, and he became CEO. And Jeff Williams, who'd been vice president of operations, became senior vice president. And Tim Cook is an operations guy, one of the best operations guys in the world. So it was sort of like, do you need a chief operating officer? But I think for a company of Apple's size and value and importance, and for shareholders, you need a chief operating officer.
One assumes Tim has other things to do now than call Shenzhen and say, where the hell are those watches?
Although, do that for the pencils.
I wish he would do it. Where the hell are these pencils?
So, he's been acting as chief operating officer for a while, and that's been recognized. And Johnny Sarugi, who leads platform technologies, there's a little bit of misunderstanding because Bob Mansfield used to just do everything at Apple. And then when he left, Dan Riccio took over the hardware engineering, but all the architecture stuff, the chipsets, the Touch ID, the sensors, the screens, all of the core technologies went to Johnny Sarugi, who comes from Israel. He's an Arab Israeli. He came to Apple, and became first known for the A4 processor, and he's been leading all their silicon levels. And arguably, Apple came out of nowhere and became the most interesting silicon design company in the world right now. And I don't think anybody expected that, and it's largely due to Johnny Sarugi and his team. Just amazing work. So he's basically effectively been a senior vice president for a while, but now it's all public and official.
The big story is, and I know what you're about to say.
Yeah,
they finally have somebody in charge of the store.
Well, yeah. So previously, the App Store, it was basically separated. The store, the actual servers and the store and the software that ran it, as well as the store management, the business development, the editorial side, all of that was under Eddie Q because it all spun out of iTunes. It uses the exact same backend and process that iTunes did. But Phil Schiller historically has had developer relations and evangelism and app review under his purview. So it was sort of, the App Store existed in these two different organizations, and sometimes the interests were really well aligned, and sometimes they weren't. Sometimes maybe Eddie Q's organization wanted to sell more apps, and Eddie's wanted to maintain the user experience or the sort of the design on how they wanted software to work. And it wasn't always in parallel. So now Phil Schiller officially gets that title because he's a senior vice president at Apple and he already has a ton on his plate. Some of the other vice presidents in marketing are taking on greater responsibility so that he can focus on the stuff that's really core to what he wants to do. But effectively, it means we have one person now to go to for App Store stuff. That's great because previously, if you wanted more resources, maybe you had to talk to Eddie Q. If you had a problem with review, you had to talk to Phil Schiller. Now the buck stops at Phil. Whether it'll be better or not, we have to wait and see because app review has been one of the biggest thorns in developers' sides since the beginning, and that's always been under Phil Schiller. But with his name, I think, officially on the door and everybody knowing that it's officially him, that puts an enormous amount of pressure on Apple. And the biggest challenge now will be that most of the complaints that we see on Twitter are from our really good friends who are like independent developers, and that's not always aligned with what Apple does and with things like MLB and Candy Crush and other companies like that. So to see what Phil Schiller does with the Mac App Store and with the iOS App Store to maybe address the concerns of independent developers, but also keep what's basically a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar business going is going to be super interesting.
Well, and do you think that the number one thing people want to see addressed is the reviews, or is it the updating process and the ability to do demos and that type of thing?
There's both. So, and again, that's historically been a huge problem because, for example, the Mac App Store, people are complaining it's not at parity with the iOS App Store, but they don't have enough engineers to keep the iOS App Store moving at the pace they want. So any resource they get, it goes to the iOS App Store, and you have to make a case to them saying, yeah, this is supremely important. You've got to pull some people off or figure out a way to get more, given that not everybody wants to work in Cupertino, not everybody wants to work on those teams. Everything is a constrained resource. But I think with review, the thing that's hard from the outside is we just say, this is bothering me and I want it fixed. But they have to look at repercussions. Like if you do something like trials, how long is a trial? On other platforms, they've had to experiment and change it. And what happens if I go and I get an app and I try it and I put in my data and I decide not to buy it? Is it locked in then? If I download an app and then delete it but never opened it, do I still get to try it for free? If I re-download it a year later? There's just a whole bunch of things that they have to work out and make everybody happy with. So they're all non-trivial processes. But again, I think a dedicated person at least can be held accountable to all those processes.
And maybe they can make the search in the store work.
That's
crazy.
That'd be another thing.
The other thing
Right.
is
That's an Apple problem. That's beyond App Store.
Yeah.
We've just, I hope this doesn't come across sounding too harsh, but we just spent a whole lot of time admiringly talking about how much work and effort they put into the camera. And they do that, they solve all those unsolvable problems and make those compromises and decisions because they've decided that making a great camera is really important to Apple. So there are lots of problems with the App Store, not just as journalists who talk about such things and talk to journalists, but people who want to buy an app but can't find it even though they know exactly the app they're trying to look for. You can't help but ask if they really thought this was a problem, would they be able to fix this? And I think that they think it's an important problem, but it's not yet at that tipping point where it's like, look, we're gonna have to address this. We know we can
wonder
do better
why
than
they
that.
don't think this is a big problem.
I think they do, but there are a whole bunch of things that they acknowledge are big problems, but they don't have the resources, or they don't have enough. They don't have enough. It's like they have 130 units of attention company-wide to spend on everything that they're doing. And some things will get 40 units of their attention, some will get 3 units of their attention.
Some will get 800
and sometimes,
engineers.
Right, because that's where the money is.
But again, it's just that it's not even just personnel and budget. It really is how much focus does the company have to say this is so important that we're gonna put our fire hose of resources to fixing this problem. And right now, the App Store has not gotten to that point of either being enough of an embarrassment or important enough, so much more important as anything else in the rest of their portfolio, that they figure that, look, we have to do something to fix this immediately. It's terrible.
And I think there's lots of places. I mean, Apple does. I think they do a pretty good job of not getting into too many things at one time. But there are things that I think they just leave a lot on the table. I think that the whole ecosystem of iTunes, apps, iBooks. I mean, the iBook Author, I think, is a perfect example of something that Apple basically they're ceding the entire education market to Google because they're not willing to invest what they can afford to invest in a proper iBooks offer. I get that it doesn't do what the textbook companies wanted, but the teachers are going crazy with it. And the thing is that that should be developing. They would make more money, a lot more money than they spent if they really developed iBooks Author and the ecosystem to create the next generation of books rather than this somewhere in between that they've created.
It's still a
And the
wonderful
stuff is really
app in
old.
the
Like,
shop.
the infrastructure is hugely old. Like, we're running the App Store off of things that were designed to run iTunes Music over a decade ago, and that all has to be updated and all has to be replaced. And it's running billions of dollars of transactions, and it's non-trivial. It's like you have a Golden Gate Bridge, and you know that you have to take this thing down, but you can't just tear it down because then no one can cross. You've got to build the other bridge in parallel until it's ready to go, and then carefully start moving people over.
I have to think it's harder than it's somewhat intractable because Apple knows it is in Apple's interest because developers and apps are key to the success of the iPad and the iPhone, and to some degree now the Macintosh. So this is bread and butter stuff. It must be harder than we know.
And sometimes the answer is different. Like, there was a lot of angst when I forget the name of the app now, the Sketch, or no, it wasn't. It was one of the apps that left the Mac App Store last week. The one that did interface. Yeah, that did interface design. And Apple's thing is, and yes, it's a problem that app can't live on the Mac App Store. But Apple developed Gatekeeper on the Mac because they know that because of what they want to do with the Mac App Store, there are some apps that just will do better not being in the Mac App Store, and they're okay with that. And so sometimes the answer to these things is, well, it would actually be better for you not to be there. And that's hard because we want everything to be everywhere.
I mean, there are a lot of subtle points too. I mean, sometimes it's not as simple as, do I want to be in the App Store or do I not want to be in the App Store? Sometimes it's things like, look, I don't want to support iCloud library. It's just not. It just doesn't make sense for our app. It doesn't make sense for our own roadmap for our product. But if we want to use if we want to have a placement in the App Store, we have to support all these new APIs. And iCloud is just one of these big bricks that Apple has dropped in these developers' backpacks, where it's kind of like saying we will allow you to publish a book in our library, but you have to translate it into Klingon, and then from Klingon into Esperanto, and then back to English, and make that version available. And say, well, we don't care about having Klingon editions of our books. You're basically saying however few resources you have as a 4 to 8 person programming shop, you're going to have to spend some time supporting this and supporting the users who are using this, even though it's not something that you care to do, or maybe you have other plans for the next 800 hours of your office productivity. So there's just a long. It's not any one thing. There's just such a long list of things that are just making the App Store more and more of a burden, and making so many people decide that if we have the ability to back out of here, is this year that we do that?
Yeah, and I wrote a thing about this last week called In the Shadow of Two App Stores, where you have the Mac App Store, which is absolutely not getting the resources that the iOS App Store is doing. But also you have the iOS App Store, where it essentially created a new category of apps. They're pop apps. They're not the kind of apps that all of us grew up with, the people who were involved in technology, with shareware culture and traditional software packages. And most people just didn't buy software back then. It's not that there's been a transition. It opened up the market to new people. And it's not clear, Apple looks at all this and they look at data, and sometimes they misjudge. Sometimes they realize, like with software stability, where they were counting crashes and not annoyances, and annoyances in volume are worse for some people than crashes. They look at this data and they see more people buying more apps and using them and engaging with them. And yes, it is Candy Crush, and it is Facebook, and it is WhatsApp, and it's a completely different kind of software. But from their point of view, this is a hugely successful app store for them. So when our friends who have been making software for 20 years have problems, they understand that, but they're seeing the success of the app store as well, and reconciling those two things, making it a phenomenal experience for pop apps and for mainstream app consumers, and making it a place where indie developers can create sustainable apps. Those are almost like two separate worlds, and maybe there needs to be two separate app stores. We were talking before, I just can't buy Apple. I can't tell Leo or Andy or Alex, here's a link, go get this Apple TV app. I'm on my iPhone, I see a link for a great Mac app. I have no way of buying it. There's iTunes Preview on the web, but you can't buy through it. There's all these things that just stop us from converting on the App Store, and all this there's just so much work that needs to be done still.
I'm certainly a lot more bold and brave when I'm shopping for Android apps for my Android phone, because almost all the time I can get a demo version of it. I know that if it absolutely doesn't work, if it's not compatible with my phone, I know that I can get a refund within 15 minutes. And as you said, Rene, that's a tricky proposition with some negatives. But I hate the fact that when I'm buying apps for instance, for my iPad Pro, it's like I really felt like I have to buy like 5 different note-taking apps to find the one that is perfect, because all of them have one of them is really good but doesn't have this feature that I like in this other one, but that one has a latency problem. They haven't cracked the code of how to make the pencil work properly. And if not for the fact that I am a journalist who writes about technology, and I can certainly write off all these expenses, it just kind of bites that the one app that I really love that I was happy to pay $6 for, I kind of had to spend like $34 for in order to find it. So there are a lot of tension points in the App Store, and I hope that there's a way to address them.
I am grateful though that we're seeing more iPad Pro apps. You know, you've mentioned before the Autodesk graphic, which is really I played with, a spectacular. What was the DJ program you mentioned last week?
DJ Pro.
DJ Pro, of course.
Make us crazy.
Yeah. And I bought my mom an iPad Pro because she's an artist for Christmas. In fact, thank you, Alex, for letting me steal your pencil, because her pencil's like back ordered for 3 more weeks, and I feel bad.
I still have one floating around that's going to show up sometime in January.
But I sent her a gift certificate for Procreate because she said, well, I use brushes because that's the tool David Hockney uses, famous British artist, and I said, well, that was when the iPhone came out. That was the tool. Why don't you try Procreate? Oh, it's going to be hard to use. She downloaded it, and she's like crazy about it within 2 days. Yeah. Like, oh my! And so the good news is there are some apps that are really taking advantage of the iPad Pro. You know, I mean, there is some light in the App Store.
It's there. I just wish it were easier to find. I think I agree. I think it was still before we started recording the show that I talked about how Serenity Caldwell on iMore had this really great article about not just a gift guide, gifts that she bought herself, including that really cool Sphero BB-8, right? And so she talked about her favorite note-taking app for the iPad Pro that I'd never heard of. And so I didn't think I'll go in the App Store and I'll just like search for this name. I figured that, I haven't looked at all of the note-taking apps. I bet that if I just search for note-taking apps or look through the categories, it will show up there somewhere. And no way. I had one of those moments where, Andy, you must be an idiot. You don't know how to navigate the App Store, because if it's popular enough that iMore has written about this, it can't be like page 41 of a 42-page app listing. But the only way I managed to find it was eventually giving up, clicking back into iMore, and just searching for the actual name of the app. And if I were a developer and if I were the developer of that app, I would feel absolutely heartbroken that, as a matter of fact, I keep talking, but I definitely want to give them a plug now, because let's
what is the product?
I'm bandwagon on it right now. If you misspell something, like if I write Tweetbot without the second E, it just can't find it. Like, this is basic nearest neighbor search widening.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, Google doesn't have this problem.
Yeah. In fact, Google fixes my spelling all the time.
All the basic, they just need a complete search revamp from top to bottom and just incorporate because these are solved problems.
Yeah.
I understand like the debate stuff, like the stuff that you can, like there's stuff that you can have an honest disagreement about and say, yes, this is better for group A, but things like just basic search, it's inarguable to me.
No, I agree.
Not just search, but again, I should be able to be clicking through productivity apps for the iPad and feel like I'm seeing every single productivity app for the iPad. Instead of feeling low, no, I believe that there's more than 30 productivity apps in the App Store for this device. Why is it that I have to? What I feel like curators are only showing me a handful of them. And the name of the app, by the way, is Whink, WHINK.
And part of me thinks that Whink.
Cool.
Got to have a pop filter.
Well, and
Whink.
Part of me thinks that what they really should do is have all the stores just go under Angela Ahrens, because when she talks about, I want to have the store have this experience that competes with the iPhone, I'm like, I want the iPhone store to have competitive experience with the iPhone.
Ooh,
you know that's the.
I like Whink,
but I think that anyway, Whink.
Easily distracted. So this is a good, but Sketch is gone, right? So this is a good maybe Sketch replacement for markup. We were looking for something similar to this.
It's a very expensive show for me.
Yeah,
a lot of these now I've tried. I really need to write it up because now I've tried 5 or 6 of them. This one isn't my favorite, but only because there are so many particulars in how people want to use it. I'm looking for the one that I've chosen.
This is free right now. It says top image purchase is premium free.
Yeah, I don't know if
That's
there's
one of the other challenges is that even if you make a great app and you're an independent developer, there can be a company that has venture funding or some other revenue source that can do, a passably good app for free that you have to compete with.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Microsoft, like they've got, this is just one, Microsoft Word is just one part of their marketing strategy for this huge Office platform. And they don't have to make money off of the iPad version of it. They can just simply say, if you buy access to Office 365, you will get this app for free. And so that makes it really hard for anybody to try to do a really functional word processor for the iPad that's just not a markdown editor plus a couple extra features.
Well, and that's the advantage Apple has with Apple Music. I mean, if you look at what just happened with Taylor Swift, I mean, no one else can afford to do whatever they cost them to.
Did you watch Tay-Tay's concert?
I have not yet, but I'm sure it's great.
I saw her banner in the Apple Store. I mean, she got placement in Apple Retail, which I don't think I've seen before.
Well, and exclusivity. I mean, and it's a big caption.
They
sure
need that. They need that.
And I bet you a bunch of people signed, a bunch of 16 to 18-year-old girls mostly signed up for Apple Music so they could watch that video. So I think, and if Apple does that once a week or once a month or whatever with different bands, it's going to be very compelling and very hard to compete with.
There's some. Let's kind of buzz through a few stories, and then we can get to our picks as well. But first, a word, if in your ear, about a great holiday gift. I've told this story before. Every year, when I was a kid, my grandma gave us a subscription to National Geographic for Christmas.
I got old ones when my great grandmother passed away. I got
she
a
had
suitcase.
them all in her basement. Yeah,
they were like 1927, 1933.
And then when the kids came along, their grandpa did the same for them every year. And now I'm thinking, this is the way to do it this year. Texture.com/MacBreak. Texture is kind of like Netflix for magazines. You pay one monthly fee. Grandma, you could take the monthly fee, right? And they get National Geographic, but they also get The New Yorker. They get Wired. They get all the best magazines for one price on their iPad or their iPhone. And the beauty part of this is it's the full magazine, not just the current issue on the newsstand, but all the back issues too. There's no clutter. That was the problem with getting the National Geographic. You put you don't want to throw it out because that would be wasteful.
Well, it's such a nice magazine.
It's so beautiful, but where are you going to put it? I mean, this gets you everything. By the way, great selection of science and technology magazines, including Macworld, PC World, Popular Science, Sound and Vision, which is a great stereo magazine, Popular Mechanics, Shutterbug and Popular Photography for the photographers, PC
and you can now read it on the takeoff. And landing. You can read it the whole time. Wired, the Smithsonian, which I love. Problem is, every one of these magazines has at least one article I want to read every month or every week. But that's one, right? And then you multiply it times 20 magazines, and pretty soon it's out of control, both cost and clutter. So here you go. All the best magazines on your iPad. You could download them before you get on the plane. In fact, you have them download automatically if you want. And then you don't have to worry. You could be offline. They've got curated collections so you can find articles easier. Their editorial team will recommend stories based on your interests. Your magazines will have the same layout and pages as if you subscribed individually, but there are hundreds of additional options, bonus features, even videos in many cases, and it's a much better price. What a great gift. Unrestricted access to the world's best magazines, from back issues to the one on the newsstands today. And for yourself. In fact, if you want to try it out right now, go to Texture, Texture. This was Next Issue. We've done ads for them for a long time. It used to be Next Issue. They've renamed themselves Texture. Now it's kind of like Texture, brought to you by Next Issue. Texture.com/MacBreak. That's the website for 30 days free. This would really be a great gift for yourself or for a loved one. And yes, sometimes I read the gossip magazines. I wanted to read about Kate's fresh start. Hello, magazine. Hello, Canada.
Hello, Canada.
Hello, Canada. They also have Entertainment Weekly and People and all the stuff that you'd kind of be too embarrassed to buy. But if you got to keep up on what's going on.
I was trying to figure out, like, how does this actually work? But I remember talking to someone about magazines, and when you pay a subscription, the primary goal of the subscription is to pay for the distribution of the magazine.
That's
and
their
then the
big
ads
expense.
Pay for editorial.
Yeah, that's their big expense. They don't want to print a magazine if they don't have to, right?
So
that's why Macworld stopped.
Right.
So
good deal.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. New Yorker now. They just added the New Yorker, which I'm really pleased about. Newsweek, New York Magazine. I'm just parents. I mean, I can go on and on. Outdoor Life's Meat Issue is out on the newsstands today. So, see, but I might read that. Hunt, Butcher, and Feast. I might read that even though I don't eat meat anymore, just because I'm, the thing is, it's so fun to be able to browse these. I definitely would get Popular Photography. Great magazine. So many good things. Lots of recipes. Anyway, texture.com/MacBreak. Got a 30-day free trial for you. Don't forget the gift. Be a good one. Apple is expected to bid on Thursday Night Football. Right now, Thursday Night Football is one of those weird things where CBS gets the first half of the season, then the NFL Network gets the second half, and they have to make a big deal. We're moving to the NFL Network. This is apparently maybe Thursday night's cheaper than Monday night. Be smart, though. I mean, if Apple's trying to build up this repertoire of unique exclusives, I think it'd be smart. I'd watch it.
Well, the crazy thing is Apple could afford to,
it would be non-exclusive.
Yeah,
They
non-exclusive.
could have Taylor Swift football if they wanted.
Yeah. Well, these are things, the reason football's so expensive, these are things that drive, they're fans, right? So that it drives traffic, drives business. Same like Taylor Swift, right?
Like ESPN.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is huge. I mean, being able to...
Yeah, that's why
ESPN
is so expensive.
One of the few missing things for the Apple TV is being able to watch...
Live football.
Although, if you sign up for the CBS... the CBS app or whatever, you can now watch live CBS, although the signing up part is really annoying.
I finally gave up with Comcast.
Go to this webpage and then type in this code.
I went to the Comcast
why can't I
store.
just say, just charge me?
I went to the Comcast. It's just a mess.
Well, also, yeah, I mean, did you try? I signed up for CBS All Access when I realized how many hours a week I spend actually watching CBS. And I stupidly signed up through the Apple TV, but you can't actually start using it on other devices because there's no way to get the authorization transferred from one device to another.
Do you have to have a cable?
Well, it says when you do it on the Apple TV, it says go to this web page and type in this code. But then when you go to that web page, the input to type in the code never shows up. So it's
right,
just
exactly. So I had to go to the web page, sign up for it there, and then cancel it and from the Apple TV. Only realizing that the instructions for the web on how to cancel it from Apple TV reflect a version of the Apple TV app that has not been released yet. So I had to have a little bit of a wrestling match to say, yeah, cancel me and give me my $8 back or $6 back.
How much a month is it?
I think it's like $6 a month.
But if so I'm already paying for it on cable in effect. Can I just?
And it's also free over the air, but it's nice because you get live broadcasts. You also get back. You basically get archives of every single show that's out there. And so realizing that I watch Colbert every night, and I watch Big Bang Theory every week, and I love the CBS News stuff. It's like I don't want to have to spend $6 for every single broadcast channel I'd like to get the shows of access to. I decided to kowtow to this one.
Are they the only network doing this?
I forgot that I could get
British Hero back issues.
Yeah, they're more. Well, they're almost everybody else like ABC and NBC and Fox
Using
and the
Hulu,
rest are Hulu, right?
Yeah.
CBS was the only holdout, and so
do they have ads in the shows, or is it without ads?
Yes, they have ads.
And really
in the shows.
Oh, I see that.
And the what am I thinking? Oh no, I'm sorry. I was thinking about Sling.com. But you do get the local station,
right?
Which is nice.
If the local station cooperates.
Now, what you can do is you can have one thing playing on your old Apple TV, and your new Apple TV is playing whatever you're actually watching, and then you just switch inputs when you get to the ad and watch something else for a little while. Go to Sound of Music and watch whatever part of Sound of Music is running at that moment, and then go back to...
It's weird how these things work, though. I hesitated because Sling.com has something kind of interesting where if you're watching through the Sling app, you can tell, like if I'm watching Food Network through the Sling app, whether it's on Roku or whatever, I get what appear to be all the commercials that are sold by that are sold by the Food Network. But every time there's a local commercial about to come on, the screen blanks for those 30 seconds. And I realize that all the commercials I hate that really offend me are all sold by the local cable company. So I no longer get the,
Oh, that's good.
did you slip and fall? Don't
Yeah.
worry, we can get you money. Instead of going to, it's like,
The junkiest ones.
Hey,
Now,
wait,
it won't let me, by the way, watch 60 Minutes because I have an ad blocker on my, so I have to unblock CBS to watch it.
The thing though is that you think about those local ads, because a lot of times they're bought really cheaply. I mean, you can buy because they're just getting,
That's why they're bad.
You're kind of in a lottery.
Right.
But my brother actually got our golf courses ad into the got into the Super Bowl, and he said you don't realize how powerful advertising on TV is until your ad shows up, when everyone's watching. And he said literally the phone would start ringing and you'd hang up and take an order and you'd hang up the phone and it would just ring again. Like, and they just kept on going like this. It was it was like fishing in a school of fish.
Yeah.
So it is powerful. Yeah. Like you think that all these ads
this
are
is a local ad. I just got Bay Area Audi dealers on the stream on the web. So
Right.
they're doing location and they're selling those locally. All right, I don't think I'm gonna pay for that because I already pay for exorbitant amount for cable. So why would I?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I really did decide that I'm liking Sling.com enough that I really am going to audit my entire cable package. I'm definitely canceling like premium movie channels because I can get for $5 a package that does what I want premium movies channels to do for me on Sling.com. I'm trying to figure out whether I should just cancel my TV package and just go down to the basic, local broadcast plus Univision, and that's it. Because once you start looking at your TV viewing habits and you realize that I can't remember the last time that I actually needed my cable box for something, and I realized that the reason why I subscribed to cable was so that the apps on my Roku and my Apple TV would actually work. And then we realized that if I have the ability to get all that stuff through Sling for much less money, all I want are these 15 channels. I don't need the 400 or 800.
See, I've been trying to figure out how I can get a Sling box in Pittsburgh so that I can watch all the Steeler games. That's really all that I care about. It's just I can't watch Steeler games here, but I couldn't even when I had cable, so that doesn't mean anything to me.
If the Sling Player app were better on Apple TV and on the old Apple TV and on Roku, it's nice. It's just that sometimes it freezes up and I have to restart the stream. Whereas when if I'm watching Chopped on the Food Network app, it never freezes. It's always because it's the app that's actually contacting servers directly and getting the show. It's not about the four-body physics. Of trying to make sure that the app on the phone is talking correctly to the box, which is talking correctly to the network, which is talking correctly to something else.
It's funny because the Canadian networks don't have any Apple TV apps, so you have to use their iOS apps. And one network says that you're just not licensed to have you watch it to use AirPlay at all. One says you have to use AirPlay mirroring because they can't let you use AirPlay Media. Another lets you use AirPlay Media, but every time it switches between their ad server and their content server, it either freezes, restarts, drops the signal, or creates a network error. And the end result is just it is so incredibly unpleasant to try to watch anything on any of their apps.
Apple also apparently maybe, rumor has it, will start streaming Beatles, a little Christmas Eve present to you.
Is it
all.
only Apple?
Not just Apple, I guess. I don't know. Let's see. Because Apple already sells the Beatles. The thing is streaming. Apple does have an exclusive on selling Beatles music, right? I think so. And nobody can stream the Beatles music. According to Billboard, there's a strong indication that fans will be able to hear Hey Jude Thursday. There is chatter around a 6-month exclusive with one streaming service. Who do you bet? It's not going to be Tidal. I think it's going to be Apple.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll find out. I mean, they already have a deal, don't they?
I think they do, yeah.
And then Pandora does have Beatles because of how non-demand web radio is licensed. Non-demand meaning you don't get to choose the artist.
Right. But their prices are going up.
Spotify wouldn't comment. Rhapsody wouldn't comment. Apple, Tidal, Deezer, and Slacker did not return comment. RDO, nobody answered the phone. So I'm hoping be nice to be able to stream the Beatles. Chris, I just keep buying their music, hoping I don't have to buy it again one more time. Also coming soon to a Facebook near you, if you're on iOS, live photos. Is that out yet?
Yeah, well, they're rolling it out globally to a small percentage of accounts, and then they're going to keep adding a few more into the next year. So I know a lot of people who do have it. Some people say they don't have it yet. There's really no way to know unless you try. If you want to try, upload something, set it as private so it doesn't go up by accident.
See, yeah.
But it's super tricky. Like it's nice that they're doing it, but I had to write a how-to on it because it's just not obvious. The way it works is first you have to find a live photo, and Apple doesn't indicate which ones the live photos are, so you have to know that it's a live photo. And then Facebook, there's a little tiny live photo button at the bottom right when you go to upload a picture, and if you don't tap that, it's only going to upload the JPEG and not the live photo. So by default, it won't do what it's supposed to do. So you have to make sure you tap that and then upload it, and then you can only view it in the Facebook for iOS app on an iOS 9 device.
And what are you getting? Are you getting the actual live photo? Or are you getting the lower quality video? What are you getting? It
looks exactly like it does in the Photos app. So you get the frame that is the JPEG, and then if you 3D touch it on an iPhone 6s or you long press it on another iOS 9 device, it'll show you the movie animation.
So that's why it's iOS only, because it's probably using Apple's library to display live photos exactly as Photos does.
I will admit that I completely thought that this was a total gimmick.
I love it.
Until I took a bunch of pictures of my kids.
Yeah. Great for kids.
And then you're like, okay, it's really cool.
Yeah, kids
I
and
really
pets.
like it. Yeah, I really like it. And I did it by, you see it by accident going by because I forgot that I wasn't even taking live photos. And yeah.
I've been using a workaround. I mean, there are a number of live photo to GIF apps. There's one I like that works really well. There's one that works less well. But then you can have an animated GIF on. I'm going to say it both ways.
It's amazing we're still using those. It's like
animated
how many years
GIFs,
later?
they just won't die. Yeah.
The CompuServe is gone, but not the GIFs.
I think the program I'm using is called Live to GIF. I can't remember exactly, but it will automatically convert it. And then, of course, everything can see it because animated GIFs are always visible.
And it's funny, as we're moving from Flash to HTML, now we're introducing live photos.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, that feature required a lot more love than it got. It demoed really great, but the ability to the difficulty it took to start sharing it, the difficulty it was to take pictures that really work that way, and now the confusion and just trying to post it onto Facebook. I mean, you compare it to I didn't know until fairly recently that Flickr just quietly introduced support for photospheres in the actual viewer. So if you I just happened to have synced a photo that was a photosphere to my Flickr library because I had auto upload turned on. And it wasn't until I was just going through my pictures I realized that, wait, I didn't take this picture of this doorway. And I started scrolling. Oh my God, that's that 360-degree view that I shot of the library. And you didn't have to do anything. It just simply converted into the right format. A viewer and controller actually just appeared in Flickr. And I just wish that Apple had been able to do something similar, had been able to create that file format such that it would be easy for Facebook and Flickr to just simply say, oh, this is a standard we already understand. It's very easy for us to unpeel it, and we don't have to talk to anybody in order to make this happen. We can just simply say that anybody who wants to upload these live photos can actually just do them and not care.
Well, but I think that as we go to this next generation of photos, whatever that is, like I was in Japan and I had a get together and I took a picture of the Theta and then I uploaded it thinking it was going to be interactive and it just came out unwrapped. I was like, okay, well, I don't quite understand why I can't do that. So, so the thing is, I think that as we, it's going to take another year or two before all these like new ways of having photos is totally integrated. And I think probably Apple's problem was they don't want to tell anyone, so then they wait until they goes out and then everyone has to start developing.
How often does this happen where Apple invents something, they don't want to say anything ahead of time, so it launches like iBeacons, and then everybody maybe will adopt it, but Apple, in order to get everybody to adopt it, really has got to put their horses behind it, and they don't. And then it fades away.
iBeacons, iBooks.
Yeah. The story is, how do we feel about Force Touch, 3D Touch now? Are we all still excited about that, or is that one faded away?
I just wrote about it on the weekend because I didn't realize how much I was using it until I started. My mom has an iPhone 6, and I was trying to do some stuff for her. She was having some settings issues, and I started just 3D touching it, and I couldn't. Like, I go to Instagram now, and I used to just tap a photo, swipe back, tap a photo. Now I just 3D touch right through a whole collection of photos. I realized last week that in Safari you can on the favorites, or the frequently visited sites, you can just force press on those. 3D, getting my lingo messed up. 3D press on those, and they'll just pop up for you. 3D press on bookmarks, and you can very quickly. Because the problem with the iPhone always is it's a one-column view. The iPad was a two-column view, so you hit the master detail view, go through the list, and the content changes, and you can very quickly scrub through vast amounts of things. But the iPhone was always tap, swipe back, and it took just to go through email, to go through anything. And now I'm anytime I see an avatar, I press it and I get instant options for communications, or I can peek at messages without tripping the read receipt. There's so many things I didn't even realize I was doing until I was back on that older phone. So it made me sort of go through and make a list of all the cool stuff that I can do with it. Even the trackpad mode on the iPhone 6s, you press it, you're in trackpad mode, you move the cursor, you press a little bit harder, it selects the word a little bit harder, selects the sentence, and you just start typing again. And you don't realize that you miss it until it's gone.
I have to remind myself to start using it.
I did it first too. It took me a while.
Maybe that's it. Because I don't use it. I don't think I use it.
I think I go back and forth between my old phone and the new phone so often that I'm kind of like,
if it's not constant, you can't learn it. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
Force yourself to use 3D Touch, and maybe you will. That's the motto.
Part of it is that I had to finally come. So next week I'm finally cutting the cord with AT&T's. My infamous.
That must be nice.
Historic,
you're giving up your unlimited data.
I'm giving up the unlimited data.
They finally talked you into it. What are you getting for it?
T-Mobile.
Oh.
So that's
a good choice. I use T-Mobile with my iPhone 6s.
All you have to do is look at the bills when you send people all over the world.
Yeah.
So my bill versus everybody else that works for me that gets the international whatever.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that T-Mobile's. You have to check to see if it works for you in your space wherever you live. But if you travel a lot
in Petaluma, it's great. And San Rafael, you live in San Rafael, it sucks. It's better in urban areas.
Yep.
It just depends. You're right, exactly right.
Over internationally, you land at Istanbul Airport or Narita or whatever, and you just start using it.
Yeah.
It's quite a thing.
The Germans make great stuff. I like this rumor. Don't know if it's true from Mac Rumors. Apple's once again rumored to be developing high-res audio formats. I would be very happy.
This seems like an obvious thing for them to do for music, Apple Music. I mean, just that it is the service provides that.
Tidal does offer for $20 a month.
It's Tidal,
but nobody wants it, I guess.
No one cares.
So and I don't know if this is true or not, but a lot of the engineers that I spoke to said that we really can't hear. A lot of people can't hear the difference.
Yeah.
But the remastering process they go through to make music for this ends up making more of a difference to the average listener than the actual technology they use to deliver it.
Probably the case.
So we just get much better masters out of it.
If you're listening on crappy Apple earbuds, it doesn't matter really.
No, not at all. In fact, I don't pick my. I don't think my earbuds are the best ones to listen to music on, but they are the right set of compromises of clarity when I'm talking on the phone, the good microphone when I'm talking, and the music's relatively good. This is ZetaModix, but I wouldn't say they're the best.
Yeah, I think most people are interested in increasing their convenience factor as opposed to the sound quality.
Yeah,
if someone
Apple offers lossless, which gives you CD quality. I bet nobody uses it.
I mean, I only like to have when I buy music, I like to have it in the best quality possible, just so that I can remaster it, so to speak, in new formats for the rest of my life. That's why I still have all of my CDs.
If you rip stuff, do you rip it in Apple lossless? Because that would give you that capability, or FLAC would give you that.
No, because I just can't really tell the difference between. I would much rather know that any player that I have on any platform is going to be able to handle an AAC file or whatever MP3 or whatever sound file that I have. Then wondered, is this one player that I like now about a couple of years behind the times, and it can't play this sort of format. If I want to put something on a Bluetooth device, that's weird. But do I have to worry about it being able to play? Like I said, I mean, I think it's convenience more than sound quality or anything else at this point in life.
What is interesting, though, that if you were going to go up on stage and say that we're ditching the 3.5 millimeter headset jack, and you can say instead that we're going to be doing all audio through Lightning now because we can provide you with quote unquote high definition audio and make it sound like a feature, then it's probably more palatable, at least for the time it takes people to start getting really angry about it.
I think they'd have to be really careful about how they say that. They'd have to say that, by the way, not only is it better quality, But there is absolutely no way in hell that you will not be able to tell the difference between these two, because I know we're asking you to throw out every set of headphones and most of the audio adapters that you have in your house and car right now. We are telling you that, oh my God, you will want to actually give it to the dog and have him take a big dump on it in the backyard and just leave it out there as a warning to other inferior technologies that do not ever consider having anything less than this wonderful new audio format and this wonderful new lightning, unless they can really make that case. Everyone's going to say, but I don't want to have to buy all new headphones. Why did you make this less compatible? I don't think, and there's so few studies that. Well, there's so few A/B tests in which people can say that the lossless is a noticeable difference between that and just a really good, nicely mastered MP3.
Well, and I think that it's also, people use that headphone jack for a variety of different things. It's the analog hole to the phone where you don't have to go through the lightning registration and all the other things. And I think when I think about you talking about this, I just think about the Ethernet jack that I still miss. Because you were like, you're going to miss that Ethernet jack when they take it out of the Mac Pro, and I was like, no one's going to matter. And I think about that every day when I put my adapter in, and so I think that I probably will miss the headphone jack.
I think if I ever get into the art print or T-shirt business, I think I'm going to have basically craft an Apple logo all out of dongles, and it's going to be the best-selling T-shirt ever.
I have a bag of dongles.
Yes, finally someone understands my pain.
Remember when Ericsson used to make phones?
I heard of that.
Remember them?
Yep.
And then Sony bought them, and then I don't know what they do anymore. Well, there was a little lawsuit tussle going back and forth between Apple and Ericsson. What's that? That's your dongle bag.
Look, here we go.
Oh, my God. Tightly packed dongle bag, too. That's like sardines.
Yeah, that's
every dongle ever made. What is that?
It's like it's every dongle I need on a day-to-day basis. That's for
ridiculous.
My phone. I got USB-C.
You know what you need to do is
Lightning.
Add up the cost of all those dongles.
Oh, I don't want to.
That's like $1,000 bag.
What you need is to make a Chewbacca bandolier for them. You really do use them every day.
The dongle bandolier.
But if you're wondering though, if you're looking for a thing to hold them in, women's makeup bags turn out to be great.
It's nice because it's stretchy and it feels like it's really tightly.
They work really. But when you buy them in a flannel shirt like this, they look at you very oddly. But the
TSA likes it because they can look right through it.
Yeah, and I like them because I can look down very quickly and find them.
I need an Apple dongle bag.
Yes.
Also, if you go on eBay, there are a lot of like leather.
You're giving this to me?
I'm giving it to you.
That will make weird little pouches. I bought like a bunch.
I'm sorry. I'm just all my tears right now.
That's your Christmas present.
He just gave me an Apple dongle bag of my very own.
And that one's even got a little loop.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Andy, please.
No. I was just saying that I found these, like, for instance, on eBay, these little like leather pouches for like next to nothing. I bought like a half dozen of them, and now every single one of my laptop bags has like one of these little emergency kits that has like it has an emergency pair of headphones.
Well, that's a good idea.
Mini charging cable and a USB 3.
Brilliant.
Like
we need to do like a bag. So we need to do one of our like.
We could sell that. No, we could sell that. Put a Twit logo on that thing. Apple, we call it Andy's dongle bag.
I will say it'll be, call it the pocket bug out kit.
Pocket bug out kit.
And I did this. I decided to put those together and buy multiples of everything I needed when I got stuck like without this one little thing that I needed. That's the one. I couldn't charge my phone again. And I'm like, nothing bad happened, but I'm like, I just bought like 2 of these, and so I said, that's it. I'm gonna buy like a bunch of little bags. I'm gonna find a bunch of little bags. I'm gonna make sure there's like a whole set of these in every single bag.
They're great, but I do like the mesh because I'd like to be able to look into it.
This is how Michelle Phan makes millions of dollars on YouTube, is selling little, monthly makeup kits. You could have an Andy's dongle bag of the month. I'm telling you, Andy. Forget Patreon. This is the future.
I will, help me to put if only there was some sort of service that would allow me to put together an LLC so I could launch this business, but I can't hire a lawyer.
Well, if there it would be called LegalZoom, and unfortunately they don't have an ad this week.
In a future episode.
Anyway, Apple has reportedly agreed to pay Ericsson. So Ericsson in 2012 took Apple to court, saying we want licensing for 2G, 3G, and LTE patents that we own. Apple agreed to pay for the use of patented technology, but not enough, apparently. Ericsson went back to court this year saying they want more money. Apple said it's too much money for a license. There's a countersuit. Swedish company upped the stakes in February, asking the International Trade Commission to block iPhones from the USA. The ITC said, well, we'll look into it, but did not impose the import ban.
So much for Frand, huh?
Ericsson's next move was to sue Apple in Europe. Well, they've settled their differences, and now Apple will reportedly, according to 9 to 5 Mac, agree to pay Ericsson 0.5% of iPad and iPhone revenues. That's a lot of money.
I don't know the details of this, but it's when you create enabling technologies and they're made part of a standard, it's understood that everyone has to use that standard. So you agree to license them under free, reasonable, and non-discriminatory conditions, and that means that Apple should be paying the same thing that Microsoft is paying, that HTC is paying, that Samsung is paying. You basically they allow your technology to be the standard in exchange for you making the licensing fair. But too often recently, FRAND patents have been brought into generalized lawsuits. And previously, the EU was investigating it, but I don't know if they're still doing that.
Let's can somebody in the chat room do some math? What is 0.5% of iPhone and iPad revenue?
A lot.
That's a lot of money.
It's pretty much. I bet you
cash.
Because it's not like Apple could make their own version of 3G or 2G. You know, what people to use their phones.
I wonder if you could do a Google search on 0.5% of iPhone and iPad revenue. Wolfram Alpha would, be really, and then it would come up. Well, let's see. Q4 revenue was $51.5 billion. Some of that was other stuff, but $51.5 billion. This is a good deal for Ericsson. What else do they do now? Do they still sell phones? I don't think so. It's enough to just relax and enjoy the beach. What else? Everybody wanted me to mention this in the chat room. Scooter X said, why didn't you mention that Apple is raising concerns over the UK's draft surveillance bill? There you go. There's the mention. I don't,
I think it's close to it's between 150 and 200 million
a year.
No,
a quarter. That was quarterly results.
Quarter. So they got like $1 billion operation for hanging out.
Nice.
Like it gives Apple $1 billion to spend on getting rid of it.
So apparently there is a UK investigatory powers bill that would overhaul rules the way the authorities can access people's communications. This probably would try to break encryption. We don't know. Encryption, the possibility of having to hack its own products, and the precedent that it would set by agreeing to comply with UK-issued warrants. The BBC has learned that Microsoft, Facebook, Google, Yahoo, and Twitter have also complained, but none of them will say exactly what they said. The legislation, according to Microsoft, must avoid conflicts with the laws of other nations and blah, blah, blah. Monday was the final deadline for written evidence. The committee is expected to report in February 2016. This isn't even a bill yet. This is just a committee.
But they're starting to talk about it to make sure that they're trying to pour as much cold water on it as possible.
Yeah, stop it now. Stop it now.
Yeah. I mean, I think I agree with the general argument that when you leave a back door, if we look at what happened with Juniper.
Yeah. No. Oh, yeah. Perfect example.
Juniper, the example
was using that bad encryption that the NSA had paid NIST to suggest, badly done encryption, and Juniper adopted it because NIST said it was okay. And now, as a result, every bad guy can get into your router.
So yeah, Juniper is the perfect example of why this is probably Juniper may end up killing the whole Juniper issue. May end up killing all these encryption things because it's proving that the government can't even stay safe from what they're talking about doing.
You can bet we'll be talking about it in just a few minutes because Security Now is just around the corner.
Go, Steve.
Before we do, though, let's take a break and get your picks of the week. Gentlemen, fire them up. First, a word from lynda.com for all you folks who are learners, curious, smart people who want to make things happen. Take better photos, master Photoshop, sharpen your Excel skills, write your own apps. lynda.com has everything to feed your curious mind. And I love it because one flat rate means you pay once a month, very affordable, and you get access to everything, over 3,000 on-demand, actually 4,194 now, on-demand video courses in every area of technology and business. Lynda.com's new courses, always new courses all the time, like Up and Running with Apple TV, Up and Running with the iPad Pro. Send that one to my mom. Up and Running with Office for iPads and iPhones. I like coding as a hobby, but some people are trying to get a better job. How would you like to learn Node.js essential training? That would be kind of guaranteed. We'd probably hire you because our website's written in Node.js. Up and Running with Clojure. I'm going to take that one. I'm playing with Clojure. I love it. Programming iOS 9 and Gameplay Kit. There's even a course on programming for non-programmers using iOS 9 and Swift. I am blown away by the quality and variety of the courses at lynda.com. They just crossed 4,000 video courses. All the teachers are experts in their field, plus great teachers. The videos are shot professionally. These are not just some, junky YouTube videos. This is good stuff. And also, they're divided up so it's easy for you to watch a little bit at a time. You can search through the transcripts to find exactly what you're looking for. And we're going to set you up with a 10-day free trial, complete run of the place. That way you can take a whole course or sample a few different courses. Just go to lynda.com/MacBreak, lynda.com/MacBreak, and sign up for your free 10-day trial of lynda.com. That's Lynda, lynda.com.
I think I've been a subscriber since it started.
We do it for our business because, we want our employees, if they want to get better at Excel, we're going to certainly encourage that, right? Mm-hmm. So there's lots of reasons why you would want a Lynda subscription. For business, for government, a lot of governments and schools have lynda.com subscriptions. Start your trial today, lynda.com. Time for our picks of the week. I'll start. I don't ever start. I'm going to start because I read a very dramatic and very depressing article. Actually came out a year ago. But I don't think anything has changed. I'm sure Steve Gibson would agree with this. It was maybe better if you don't read this story on public Wi-Fi, published by a Dutch paper. It's now available on Medium in English. And it tells a story of bringing a white hat hacker, Wouter Slotboom, to a coffee shop. He had a very small black device, slightly larger than a pack of cigarettes with an antenna on it. Hid it beneath the menu, connected to it, and was able to sniff out lots of information that's basically public from everybody on the public Wi-Fi network, including all of the access points you'd ever joined. Then he simulated the names of those access points. So remember, you may be smart, and you may say, I'm not going to, I'm going to be careful about the public Wi-Fi. But you also have the name of the Wi-Fi access spot in your home, and that's automatically joined by your phone, usually, or your laptop. So he would do that, was able to capture huge amounts of information by a man-in-the-middle attack at that point, including breaking through some encryption and so forth. It's a dramatic article, and I read it last night, and I immediately went online and bought this. Because we're about to spend a week on a boat with public Wi-Fi, the only option, right? With 5,000 other people, one of whom may not be the nicest person in the world.
Could be that guy from Sweden.
Could be that guy from Holland. So this is a tiny hardware firewall, and I had one, I've lost it, so I bought another one, but they've gotten so much better. This is free if you pay $91 for a year's subscription to the Hotspot VPN. And what's nice is you don't have to do anything VPN-like on your computer. You basically use this to connect. So this will connect to Wi-Fi or Ethernet. So you can bring it into a coffee shop. It becomes a Wi-Fi access spot for 4 others through the firewall. It has Tor built into it, which you could use as well as the firewall. It's VPN encryption. It doesn't have a power supply in it, so it's very light. But you can plug it into any micro USB battery or just charge it off your laptop, keep it running off your laptop. And suddenly you're going to have a hardware firewall that I'm frankly going to, after reading this terrifying article, I'm never again using open Wi-Fi. I'm going to have this all the time. Now, I'm sure with any VPN, there's a little bit of a slowdown, but I hope this comes before I get on the boat.
Yeah, I have to admit, I use a MiFi most of the time, but this is great. And there's another thing that this is useful for that I can see is we often want to plug stuff that only has a hardware connection, and we want to get it to the Wi-Fi.
Right.
So you could plug this in, and
Ethernet to Ethernet if you want.
Well, but Ethernet, it could go
Wi-Fi to
Ethernet.
Yep.
And so we use our computers to do that. We use
Could be
Apple
Wi-Fi to
Express,
Wi-Fi.
which is way overkill for that. This would be perfect.
Yep. And it's $91 for a year of VPN service. The hardware, basically, they give you the hardware because you buy the year. So they have a variety of these tiny hardware firewalls. And I had an older one which was not nearly as flexible. They've become very flexible and tiny and light. So I think this is to me now, I feel like, okay, I guess I better go with this. And the nice thing is I can get one for the whole family because it'll support 4 Wi-Fi access points and just say, kids, here's what you do. Delete all other access points.
Does it do Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
So it will connect to Starbucks or whatever.
The Starbucks Wi-Fi. And then, now I don't know how it does captured portals. I presume there's some way for you to log into the captured portal. Mm-hmm. And then from then on, the device is logged in to the Starbucks, and then firewall VPNs you on your own, and you don't have to have any software on these other devices. So you use it with your phone, you use it with your laptop. I just and I checked, of course, because it's got a Korean name, but in fact it's good open source software on here, and it's
south or north. That's probably an important question.
It'll block malware. It'll block web ads. It will also, of course, give you a VPN. And I love it. It's big enough now and enough memory that it can do a Tor as well automatically. And you don't even have to see it. You don't even have to know. Your kids don't even have to know they're using it. Daddy, why is the Wi-Fi so slow? Because it's secure. Shut up. Andy Ihnatko. By the way, that's tinyhardwarefirewall.com. Andy Ihnatko.
Got a little one and a hardware one. First, Neil Gaiman read A Christmas Carol at the New York Public Library 2 years ago while dressed in full costume as Charles Dickens, complete with theatrical beard. That was one of the nicest things I ever did on Christmas. I was actually there. And so the MP3 of that reading is available for free, streaming or for download. And it's become another part of my Christmas traditions to listen to Neil Gaiman reading A Christmas Carol. Because think of how well
he's a great reader.
Exactly. I was about to say we recommended his audiobooks not just for how well he writes, but also how well he reads them. And so it is just a super, super treat. It's better. You don't want the Christmas Carol to come from an accent like this.
And this is a suitable, well, maybe not completely fitting replacement for the David Letterman Christmas show.
I did make sure that I copied the entire thing in HD off of my DVR. It's sitting on my hard drive because I was at that one last year. So
you went to it.
Oh yeah, no, I got awesome. I've never asked. I had friends who were producers on the show, and I've never asked them for tickets before. And then I said, you know what? I think at this point, after like being friends for like 9 or 10 years, I have proven that I'm not just maintaining this friendship for access to for tickets. So please, if you got if you got them, fine. The other thing I want to recommend though is the Patagonia Mini Mask Bag, which I just got like last week, and has been the solution to a bunch of problems that I've been dealing with because. Even if not only am I using like the iPad Pro as my regular walk around like computer, but even so, like now I'm using lighter computers, and all my bags are really designed for, at best like 2005, 2006 sort of stuff. So not only it's available in a bunch of colors, what I like about it is that it's got like this built-in like elasticized sleeve pocket that's perfect for an iPad Air, and it's also of course perfect for an iPad Pro. And the rest of it is just not that. It's big enough to be a substantial bag to handle everything that you're going to want to have to carry throughout a day in the city, but also small enough to be compact, but also big enough that you can carry some extras as well. So I'm easily carrying an iPad Pro plus a keyboard. Plus, it has really nice organization inside here. I don't know if you can see that. But so I've got like my laptop stand, I've got my pencil, I've got some actual writing instruments. I've got like in this zippered pouch here, I've got, again, my little take it everywhere emergency kit. And there's still like I keep looking and there continue to be like other little like emblems and pouches and sleeves for like phones and stuff. And there's also this zipper here for like quick access to your sunglasses and whatever. And then the last two things that I really love in a bag, which is an integrated like water bottle pouch and also a magazine flap. So when things you just want to have some papers or something you can have quick access to, even if like a Kindle or an iPad Mini or something like that. Not too expensive. I'm enamored of these $800 cool leather briefcases, but this is really the thing that I really need to have, like as my throwing some things into a bag because I'm going to be out of the office for 10 hours, whether I'm at a conference or just have a meeting in town. Pretty much the perfect size. Is very, very well thought out for how a modern person has their technology, and it's flexible enough that you can slip an umbrella in there, you can slip an extra jacket over the flap, and really, really cool. Also, the fact that it's reflective. If it saves me from getting killed just once, then it'll have been worth the. It's $80. I actually got it. At a going out of business sale for $43. So that's even better.
Excellent. Alex, do you want to fire away?
Sure. So, two things. One, real quick. I had an Innova that I hadn't really used very much, and Andy inspired me over the Thanksgiving to start using it more. And man, that thing is awesome.
Which?
The sous vide.
Oh,
thing
the
that you stick into the
sous vide, Innova sous vide.
Now I have two because they have a sale going on, I think, right now, or they're continuing to extend it, so it was off, and so I got the wireless. I got the Wi-Fi one because I had the Bluetooth one. Yes. And the Wi-Fi one is just as cool.
There's the Innova. Andy actually carries it around in a backpack.
By having two of them,
because you can actually cook like at your desk. So you can have a pork roast or a brisket going like during a full workday.
Well, and the thing is that the reason I wanted two was so that I can do my chicken at one temperature and my beef at another temperature, which was very important. So anyway, so that was it. But now also I had recommended something in the past from this company, but they have something new that I kind of got by accident, and pretty excited about it. So I talked about a couple, maybe, I don't know, half a year ago or something about DSAN makes this thing called a Perfect Q that we use. They now have a small one called a Micro. And this is a little geeky for people who do business presentations and stuff like that. But it's a lot less expensive than the last one. And
what is it? What does it do?
So what you do is you take this little antenna.
One of the things I love about your picks is I don't even understand what they're for. It's like, okay,
so you hook that up.
Yeah.
Then I hook this thing up to
let
the
me get the close-up
thing.
camera going.
And I hook this up to that, and then I plug it into my
best picks
computer.
involve three-letter acronyms I've never heard before.
Right.
DSAN. Well, do you know about a DSAN? Don't you need a DSAN?
But it's always
Then
no, I don't know what
and
DSAN.
then you have this, which is in our business called the pickle.
That's a pickle. No, they got a pickle.
I guarantee almost every event that
That's
I work
the
on,
slideshow.
there's a panicked call over comms going, "Where's the pickle? Where's the pickle?"
That's the
We're missing
slideshow
pickle."
advance mechanism.
Yeah. So this is forward and back. Now the thing is that you probably go, well, I can go to Radio Shack and buy that little thing that hooks into the thing, or I can do Bluetooth, or I can use my iPhone. This works 300 feet, like 300 feet solid.
So this is
no
the
problem.
pickle base unit.
That's the base unit, and here's the most important part: see, it's got another USB on the other side, so that you can run two of the same presentation at the same time, which gives you redundancy.
It's a double pickle.
Something goes wrong.
It's like the double Dutch sandwich.
Yeah, it is. It's like a double Dutch Irish. Yeah. And anyway, so it's even green here, but green is for go.
Is this the cucumber and that's the pickle?
I don't know what that's called. This is just called. They make bigger ones of this, but this one's small enough now that I can just keep it in my bag because you never know when you need a pickle. So
and there's even kind of if you lose connection, there's a manual pickle indicator.
Well, it'll tell you
so you could see left is he's saying go next to the next one.
Yeah, so because what happens is oftentimes we try to disconnect the speaker from actually using the so we want to know what they want to do, but we don't want them to actually do it. So
because sometimes they accidentally picle.
They
might put the pickle in their pocket and accidentally
exactly
go to the next slide too
early.
So
we try to keep so anyway,
that's so funny.
And so this is, but
how much is this? This is the Q from
like $385 or something like that. So it's cheap. You guys see the one, the big one that I have. The big one that I have. But the thing is, you're paying to get a good one. You're paying for the.
Alex, you're saying you have a big pickle?
Price of success.
Oh, I have so many of these. So anyway, but the bigger ones are much more expensive. They're like $800, $900 each.
Whoa!
And they're big and they they do other things.
But if you're a
they
presenter,
actually
you
tie
wouldn't
into
buy.
comms. So when someone clicks it, you goes. Click, click,
You
hear it
wouldn't
in
buy this. This is for the AV squad to
I'm saying,
have.
for those of you. Yeah, but I mean the thing is if
as
you're
a
doing a lot of
presenter.
these. Here's the deal: if you do a lot of these presentations, I carry this around because I walk into a presentation place and they hand me one of those little Bluetooth pieces of whatever, and I go, you know what? I'm just going to use my own.
So now
like I'm just going to hand you this, and it doesn't take. I'm just like I don't because I actually want my slides to do what they're supposed to do when I want them to do that. So,
I have a bit of a conundrum now because I thought the show title was going to be Andy's dongle bag, but it might be Alex's little pickle. I don't know. I can't decide.
Dongles and pickles.
It could be.
Could be Andy.
Dongle pickles.
Oh no, this is a whole lot of. This is going downhill quickly. Anyway, so
That's good. That's from D. San.
and pretty much they're the only ones that make ones that anyone really uses when they're doing anything professional.
Awesome.
So, that's cool. That's it.
Mr. Rene Ritchie, I think you're the last one here.
I regret that I have no dongles nor pickles to offer you,
Thank
Leo.
you.
I have
grateful.
some things. We put the iMore Awards live this morning, which is all our favorite apps, accessories, and devices from the year. So it's what we think are just the best of the best of the best stuff. And there's a lot of. It was an interesting year because Apple added 2 whole new platforms, which means 2 whole new app stores, 2 whole new devices. So we pared down. Instead of doing every category, we just did what we felt was the best of the best stuff. So you have devices and features and apps and accessories across all of Apple's product lines. And this, we try to skew towards independence, towards things that are really innovative, towards stuff that we use every day. So we want it to really be not just a retread of what iTunes or someone else might show you, but something that's really kind of Serenity and my opinion on what we sort of thought was transformative the most this year.
Periscope, the iPhone app of the year. I think that's a good choice. I think you're not alone, in fact, in that.
No, we thought about Meerkat, and yeah, it's very similar to what Kik was doing years ago, but there's something about Apple products that mainstream technologies that take them from niche nerdy kind of stuff and makes them available to everybody. And the power of Twitter's social network in making video streaming popular is hard to ignore.
Oh, I love Alto's Adventure. You turned me on to that for the game of the year. 3D Touch app of the year, Tweetbot. This is good.
And we have some advantages in that we don't have to just pick stuff that's in the App Store. We can pick stuff that's not available in the App Store as well. So like our Mac app of the year was Audio Hijack 3 by Rogue Amoeba, which isn't in the App Store, but takes something that used to be really, really hard and puts an interface on it that is really, really good.
Yeah.
There was a ton of really, really great stuff. The Apple Link bracelet too. I mean, Apple is brand new to watches, and they did something in watch bands that all the incumbents they were sort of complacent. And Apple came in with fresh eyes and made something you don't need a jeweler, you don't need to take it, you don't need tiny tools, you can just pop links in and out. And that's the kind of stuff that we really like because it makes an actual. We're going to see that everywhere soon. Everyone's going to be doing that with watch bands. So that's sort of the kind of stuff that we like the most.
iMore.com. The year's best.
The other thing I wanted to mention just quickly is App Santa is back this year. So they get some of the best developers in the world, the most popular apps in the world, and they get them to lower the prices for just a few days over the holidays. And they go up to 80% off this year. And it's both Mac and iOS apps. And it's some big ones like Calendar 5, Tweetbot, Day One, Solver, Starwalk, PDF Expert, Deliveries, V for Video, Text Expander, Clear, Launch Center, Drafts, Screens. The list goes on. And if you don't have them, it's a great time to get them. If you do have them, it's a great time to gift them. And the developers are all really, really good, and the apps are all phenomenal.
This is not the Humble Bundle. This is not. There's also a lot of people do this. This is App Santa.
Yeah, and his apps that aren't usually included in bundles. They're from people who are sometimes more reticent to join bundles.
And Real Mac does this, and I love the Real Mac folks. So this is good. Yeah. Yeah, there's some good stuff in here. Most of which I've already bought.
Screens on the iPad Pro is ridiculous. You can basically have a Windows or Mac box on a 12.9-inch screen in front of you. Maintain your server room from poolside while sipping a cocktail beverage.
Nice. Actually, I had a caller who was looking for exactly that. He's a new teacher. He has he wants to stand up in front of the class with his iPad and be able to control a computer in the back of the class. And screens would do that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and one of the problems previously had been that the controls aren't really, as touch-friendly as Microsoft says they are, and OS X is not at all touch-friendly, that the size of the iPad Pro makes it easier to hit those little tiny on-screen representations of the buttons.
Yeah.
Which is really nice.
I use screens. I love it.
Yeah.
$14. But how much is the Santa app? Because you're saving money by buying it all at once, right? Isn't that the idea?
No, it's not a bundle because you can't do
it's not a
bundles on the
bundle.
App Store. It's just they all reduce their prices at the same time.
I see. So it's a
You'll see what the
$13.99.
previous-
Yeah, I get it. Down from $20. Nice. Oh, so I don't have to. This is better because I don't have to buy them all.
No.
Some of them I haven't
like.
bought yet. I gets it.
It's a good show. Like they're using the limitations of the App Store to their advantage.
Yeah, appsanta.co. Appsanta.co. My friends, this is the last show of the year. Next week is going to be a best of MacBreak Weekly, and then I'll be back the following Tuesday, January 5th. You know who will not be back? Jason Howell, who has been producing this show for more than a year. He replaced Chad Johnson, and he is now going to be moving to full-time hosting of All About Android. And Monday through Friday, our new Tech News Today show, which will be at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 2400 UTC. Megan Maroney and Jason Howell hosting our rejiggered and a very exciting new Tech News Today.
Yes, we set up the set yesterday and played around for a couple of hours and played with the format. So it's suddenly feeling a little real. Megan just got a whiteboard.
Wow.
You know it's real when you get
serious.
a whiteboard.
That's serious.
It says TNT at the top. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
We really appreciate all you've done over the last year and a half, and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Jason,
I'll still be here.
Yes, of course.
Maybe not on this show.
You're going to see more of Jason than before. In fact, we were just thinking you should now you could be on Twig.
Hey, there we go.
No longer do you have to sit behind that board. You can sit in front of it.
It's going to be weird. I've spent 10 years pushing buttons, and suddenly I'm not going to be pushing buttons anymore.
It's about time.
I'm going to be pushing people's buttons.
You are a talent.
Yeah. Thank you.
And Jason Cleanthus, F and Dunn, a man we discovered in the chat room who has become one of our most devoted employees. There he is. He's going to be taking over for you, Jason, on this show, on This Week in Google, and on This Week in Tech. So
that's right.
Welcome, Jason Cleanthus. All the best to Jason Howell.
Thank you, guys. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, good job. And are you all ready for Christmas? All the shopping done?
All the shopping I'm going to do. Absolutely.
Hung by the chimney with care.
I'm getting my shorts out of storage because we're expected to hit 70 degrees in Boston.
Andy and I will be in Speedos this weekend.
What the what?
I'm officially worried.
And I'll be in Nassau in the Bahamas, and it'll be freezing cold.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Jeez Louise. Well, I do wish you all the best. Andy, have a wonderful Christmas, a great New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and we'll see you January 5th.
See you January 5th. Happy Christmas to one and all. Thank you very much, Leo.
Thank you. Thanks. Always a pleasure. Enjoy your chapeau. Thank you, Rene Ritchie, in the balmy confines of the Canadian Alps. So nice to have you on every week at imore.com. Don't forget his great podcasts. Happy New Year.
New Year, Leo. Thank you so much. You and Lisa and the whole family.
Thank you. Yeah. We're sailing out Sunday. And,
it's going to be epic.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I think, given the weekend that we're supposed to have, I wish I were on a boat. I think that you'll be safer. I don't know. I don't think we'll all survive this next week.
I can ride the tidal wave. Well, I'm going to
be documenting it in Leica.
I'm going to bring that. I'm going to bring my film camera because I think it'd be kind of fun to document this very colorful, glitzy, crazy cruise ship in gritty black and white, like it's, kind of a Dion Arbus kind of a feel to it. But also I'm going to bring my Theta S and do 360 vlogging from the boat, I'm hoping. They say the internet is really fast there, so.
They promised
me. So I'm going to, if I can, I'll be uploading every day.
Friends of mine cruised just 2 weeks ago, and it's like night and day between that and the last time that we did.
Remember all those geek cruises?
Yep.
We had to simulate the internet.
It was like, are we close enough to shore? Can we get Wi-Fi from a coffee shop
terrible. It was horrible.
in Japan yet?
So depressing. And of course, Alex Lindsay, a great pleasure as always. You're going to be you're traveling at all in the next couple of weeks? Or are you going to stick around?
I'm going to LA for Christmas.
Oh, good.
But for a day.
Family.
I'm going down for the 25th. For family. I'm going to be, and then I'm going to go to CES for a couple days.
Oh, I forgot CES is coming up. But that's not.
It's the 5th or the.
It starts the 5th?
Yeah. It starts the week we get back. Yep.
Yeah.
So too much.
And then I'm off to DC.
All right. So, well, maybe we'll see you at CES in Vegas.
Yeah. He's actually live streaming for the North Pole, but he's not allowed to discuss it. He's under a Santa Dia.
We are not doing our New Year's Eve show, but we are doing kind of a special on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. We're doing a New Screensavers marathon. Every episode of New Screensavers starting at 11 a.m. Pacific on Christmas Eve. That should take us all the way through Christmas Day. 50 hours. It will end with the show you did on Saturday with me. It was a lot of fun. The Star Wars episode.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Have a great holiday. If you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year if you celebrate that. And we'll be back January 5th if you want to be in studio. We had a great studio audience. Thank you all for being here. You can email tickets@twit.tv, and we'll put a seat out for you. Maybe we'll get one of these special Andy's Dongle bags as parting gifts or something. We also, you can watch live every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1900 UTC. Starting January 5th, we'll be back live again. Got a great best of, though, for you next week. You should definitely download that. In fact, you can download all the shows at twit.tv/MBW or wherever you subscribe to podcasts, audio and video. Thanks, everybody. Happy holidays. And now get back to work because break time is over.